Good day, everybody. It is Calxiyn here, and thank you for attending Calxyn's Royal Court today, where we have gathered to discuss RWBY Roman Holiday. Chapter 11 and onwards is what we are going to be doing today.
Excuse you. Calxyn's Royal Book Club.
Oh, yes. Calxyn's Royal Book Club.
Next week we're doing Jane Eyre. Previously we did the other RWBY novels.
I totally forgot. Anyway, yes, we are gathering in court today to have a book club. Let's put it that way, okay? And so, yes, we are covering, I guess, chapter 11 till the very end. So part 1 was like everything like before they met, and now we're getting to like how they met, basically, which I think is a good, totally intentional split. Not because we got tired after 3 hours
Not
or
because
anything.
I got tired and then you got tired.
Yeah.
We're like, let's split this in two.
That's not the reason. It was totally intentional.
Let's make this like the last Harry Potter book.
Exactly, okay? It's like Twilight Part 1, Twilight Part 2, okay? And it's probably the same length. So like go download that one, you know, listen to it on your way to school or something on 2 times
I was impregnated by a vampire.
Oh my
Cal's a werewolf.
And so yes, you definitely want to go watch the Part 1. But without further ado, let us just like get into it, okay? And so let's start with chapter 11 right here, right now. So what I think was interesting about this is you kind of talk about like, oh, like Neo was sort of like privileged in a way.
Affluenza, I believe is the term I use.
Obviously her parents are still shitty. But I feel like that this chapter brought her down to earth a little bit because she realized how good she had it, in a way. You know what I mean? Because she's like, oh man, like I have to share my room with 9 other girls.
My gilded cage was suffering, but this shittier cage is a lot shittier.
Right? And so, you know, she has to share her room with like 9 other girls. She has to share the bathroom. Like there's just like a lot of like that going on where she's like, you know, I thought I'd like being away from home, but maybe not. And it's kind of like, you know what? Like what's wrong with a gilded cage versus a shitty cage? At least, like,
hey man, I'm trying to relationship my way into a gilded
exactly.
cage.
And so that's kind of just funny because this is so random, but I was listening to Hades Town, right? And so his whole thing is like, you know, I want someone who will appreciate a gilded cage and won't try to fly away the moment Mother Nature calls, right? Because he's talking about Persephone, right? And so like, what's wrong like with a gilded cage and with the lights and the glamour of like Hades Town? But obviously Persephone's all about that nature, right? You know what I mean? All about that outdoors. And so, yeah. And so what's funny is
Would
that...
it kill you to put in a botanical garden?
The whole reason why Hades goes after Eurydice, which is like the conflict of the musical, like the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, if you guys don't know. So Hades goes after Eurydice, right? And then Orpheus is like, nah, you can't take my woman. And so he goes down there. Obviously not like that, but you know what I mean? And so like the whole thing is it's like, hey, like how about you, Eurydice? Do you want a gilded cage? And she's like, fuck yeah, let's go. Like she's just like, yeah, I would like a sugar daddy. And obviously she, you know, she comes to discover that like, I don't need these things. I just need food when I'm hungry and fire when I'm cold and da-da-da-da-da, right? She's just like, nah, like I don't need like the riches of life. I just need like the, you know, the minimum to survive and be happy or whatever. Like
basically what we're saying is that RWBY is Greek mythology.
Exactly. Kind of. Well, no. I mean, I'm sort of thinking of this as in, but I'm just like, but that gilded cage though. Like, you know what I mean? I get the moral. I get the moral of the story, but you know, like call me up Hades.
Maybe I'll find a controlling rich husband and or wife in my life and appreciate how gilded cages are,
yeah, and so I just think that
unfortunate, however, I still really
an interesting thing to note, I guess, is that it's funny how, like, a lot of the time the moral of this story is like, oh, but you don't need money to be happy, which is, like, that is a good lesson, but when you don't have money, right, when you don't have money, it's like, nah, but, like...
I want money and at least one chaotic dipshit on my wavelength. So you that's the moral of this novel.
You can kind of always not tell per se, but tell when like fairy tales and like stuff like that have been written by rich people. Like somebody like Charles Perrault that like rewrote all the, like the common folk fairy tales to make them have like moral lessons for like society, like women of high society and stuff. You can kind of tell when the moral of the story changes to, oh, but you don't need the money though, because it's like it's easy to say that when you have all the money. So yeah, obviously though, Neo's parents are like neglectful and abusive and money cannot fix that, you know what I mean? Just want to make it clear. It's just when she's talking about like, oh, I have to share my room now and I have to share a bathroom and one of the girls cries at night, you know what I mean, in our dorm room, I was just like, yeah, like, you know, you had, there were some
qualities
of being at home, obviously, right?
I also like that so many books about like...
and again, that's not us saying that, like she says that. Yeah. She's just like, yeah, my parents are shitty, me. But I had my own room, right? And so she's kind of like, there's a, she's coming down to earth a little bit.
Mind you, that room had a bomb underneath it, but we'll get to that later.
We'll get to that later.
What I like about
I just want to specify stuff like that, because I don't want people to be like, oh, Cal thinks like it's fine to be abused if your parents are rich. I'm just like, no, but, right, she is saying in the book, oh yeah, my parents were shit, but I have to share a room with 9 other girls and I hate it. Like, that's her attitude about it, at least like I am feeling and sussing out, which I think is interesting for Neo as a character who grew up in a lot of privilege to now have some of that privilege taken away and be like, oh, I didn't realize like the way that I was growing up, I guess.
We don't all have cake butlers.
Exactly, stuff like that, right?
What I find interesting is that a lot of people who have actually gone to like boarding schools hated it and were really annoyed when like fantasy books like I guess glamorize it.
And so it's kind of nice that this isn't glamorized.
And this one's like, no, it sucks. It's like a weird cult.
Yeah.
And you're treated poorly.
I mean, obviously, as it progresses, right, there's some cool stuff, right? There's like archery and how to decode a bomb and stuff like that.
Archery's neat, but then you realize it's like this horrific NSA 1984 like high society surveillance
system. It was kind of interesting because I wanted to go to boarding school like for the longest time. Like,
really?
I actually like legit like because
you would have not lasted.
I know. I remember like there were advertisements on the train for like this all girls like boarding school somewhere. Like, obviously it was like for rich people or something. I don't know where it even is. I don't even know what it's called. And obviously, not trying to dox where I live, but I remember seeing those ads all the time and I was like, oh my god, wouldn't it have been amazing to grow up in a boarding school with all these other girls and have sisterhood and girlhood and stuff. And now I read this and I'm just like, no, let's not do that. You know, like, it's easy to romanticize the idea of like a sorority and stuff like that. But
and then you see videos of sororities, I'm like, that's a cult.
And so let's talk about the gossip, which I think is so funny. Okay, so Rox sleeps with a stuffed cat. Like, I guess that's, oh my god, she sleeps with a stuffed animal. And then Celeste has an older boyfriend in Oscaro. And I said, isn't that Vacuo? Is that like I totally have a girlfriend in Canada? That's what I wrote down, because isn't Oscaro Combat School the Vacuo one?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember. But either way, I feel like I have an older boyfriend, but he doesn't go here. Like, I feel like,
realize that you have had an older boyfriend in England and an older boyfriend in Boston.
I know, but that's different. I'm just saying, like, oh yeah, my boyfriend totally goes to Oscaro Combat School. You know what I'm saying? Then Laurel is the one that cries in her sleep. Veronica is a Vale City councilwoman's daughter. Okay, so that's part of the gossip, which is kind of interesting again, because it's like they bring up this Vale councilwoman and you're like, oh, the dad's a councilman. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, they don't talk about the city councilwoman. Aaron and Marv broke up 3 times, but I guess now they're back together.
I'm just
like the whole
glad
idea
that Yang and Blank aren't the only queers in the RWBY universe that are desperately indecisive.
Oh my god. Oh, that's what I thought you were gonna stop it saying, oh, I'm glad they're not the only, like, you know what I mean? I'm glad they're not the only lesbian couple. So
there's a lot of lesbians, but like, they're the indecisive ones.
Oh my god.
You don't see Saffron and Terracotta being like, I don't know. No, they're committed.
Oh my god, Hunter. You crack me up sometimes.
I bet you that they met on like Vale, like Twitter.
Oh my god.
And then we're just like, where do you live? Like, oh, Mistral, where do you live? Vale. It's like, okay, ticket. Like 3 months later, they moved in, adopted Adrian.
Yeah, so there's just like, you know, some, how do you call it? Some background gaze, but it's kind of nice because it's like, it's treated as a perfectly normal thing other than the fact they've broken up 3 times. Like, that's the part that's a little, but like isn't that not
but that happens.
Is that not high school drama, right?
Is high school.
Yeah.
I've known those
and so I said, Trivia seems to know all the secrets, which obviously, like, you know, that comes back later, obviously. Others gossip about her that her parents are dead. Outlandish theories about why she doesn't speak. And so I thought that was funny because I thought that was like a meta commentary about us. Right? Because she's like, oh yeah, they gossip that my parents are dead. And there are these outlandish theories about why I don't speak,
Some people think I'm like a Grimm. It's super weird.
Some people think I'm an Atlas experiment. Like, I don't know why, you know what I mean? And
I feel like, you know what, in retrospect,
I think
that is a subtle jab against our
I think so. I think that it's like, obviously obviously it's lighthearted, right? They don't like, you know what I mean? It's not mean, but I think it's just funny because like, okay, the parents are dead thing, like people think about that, I guess, because I don't know, do they know that she's a vanilla and that her house caught on fire? I don't know. Anyway, but like that was separate. She was like, oh, other people gossip that my parents are dead, and you wouldn't believe the outlandish theories about why I don't tell. You know, it felt very like pointed, I guess. And so I wrote down that she was good at this stuff. I guess, I don't know if she thought that or if that was like my opinion. I can't remember. She was taught to be
she did say that she was good at it.
She was taught to be more aware of her body, what it told them about their feelings, to hold their heads up high. So these are like the lessons of like, you know, the class. Girls were here to be proper ladies. And then I wrote, but isn't that sexist? We're not going to talk about that again.
We already talked about
it.
We talked about that. At this point, let's just pretend they never said that about,
yeah, I know.
Let's say like slightly more equal society.
Yeah.
But not as equal a society.
Yeah. But there was ballet, fencing, ribbon, acrobatics, cooking, cleaning, sewing bored her. Oh my god, I'm like reading too fast for my brain today. Anyway, and so basically she's like, oh yeah, acrobatics, that's the cool shit, but the sewing, you know what I mean? And so I kind of like that they explained what classes she took, especially because like technically, as I have been saying, oh, like, you know, this guy graduated from a finance school. We never see regular school in Remnant. Like, technically, Is this not a regular? It's not. But technically also,
like, it's not like they have a math and an English class.
Yeah,
know?
But, like, still. And so I think that that's good that they, I guess, contextualized how Neo, like, knows all these skills. You know what I mean? Like, why does she, like, you know, why is she so acrobatic? Because they're literally on a tightrope 40 feet in the air, you know?
I like how that was an explanation for a very acrobatic, controlled, like,
yeah, especially, like, ballet and ribbon and stuff like that. Like, I'm doing ballet now, and you guys see what it's doing to me? All right, I don't know if you guys can see that. I wasn't going to mention it.
You look like you're in a kickboxing class.
I know, right? And so, yeah, I'm doing a musical theater program, and we have 2 dance classes, and the dance classes are ripping my entire body apart and putting it back together.
At this point, I think your theater training is the same thing as like Green Beret training at the end. You could also like, I think that you could do Green Beret training, but a Green Beret couldn't do theater training.
It's kind of funny because I read this before I started school, right? But now that they're saying like, oh, they teach you how to be more in control of your body, and like that your body tells you what you're feeling, like that's actually so true. Like we were talking this week about like, they call it like psychophysicality, and it's that like if you like say before you go into an audition, you're like, you know, you're really nervous and stuff, you're supposed to go like, hey, like you're supposed to go like, wee, because apparently like that like triggers like a confidence hormone or something like that. Okay, so
I want to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's actually not true.
But that's what they said.
That was on a famous TED Talk. This has nothing to do with anything, but there was a famous TED Talk where a lady was just like, do your Superwoman pose and you'll be more confident. You'll trick your body.
Well, I think that is kind of true.
And I have done studies, and my studies show. But then studies, other people do it. They recreate it to see if they can replicate the results, and no one has been able to replicate those results.
Isn't that kind of like a placebo, though?
It's probably a placebo, right? But it no longer works for you guys because I told you.
Because also,
welcome to the real world.
How do you say it? Isn't it also like a popular culture thing too? Like even if it doesn't actually do that, like this pose is in no way connected to your actual brain, isn't it like, you know, people that I admire do this pose, and so if I do it I may feel that way type of thing. Maybe. Anyway, and so we were talking about that in class, like, because this isn't science, right? Like this is some like actor guy like theorizing about it, but I think that it is kind of true in the way, like probably not in like the biological way that you're kind of saying, Hunter, but
science.
Like, you know, when we feel sad we tend to hunch over and do stuff like that. You know, when we're confident we tend not to do those things. So I think that there is kind of a connection. Or if you've ever listened to like happy music and that's like instantly cheered you up. I don't know if any of you guys are like me, but if I listen to sad music, I'm like, it doesn't matter how happy I was. Like I could have won the lottery and then you play like Close the Door from Anastasia and I'm just like, ah, right, you know? And so yeah, basically it was this idea that your body is affected by your mental state, but that your mental state can also affect how your body moves. So that sort of interchangeable thing. So I think it was interesting that they talked about that in the book, because that's kind of what we're doing too. Oh guys, the stuff that we're doing, I can't wait, because we already did a school podcast before I did all this stuff, but if I was like, guys, the other day we lied on the floor and had to pretend that we were falling and like move around and grab at the floor with our backs like the stuff that we're doing, oh, it's so funny. Anyway.
Well, I thought the teacher stories I have now were weird. That's weird.
Yeah, and so, speaking of the book, okay, Melanie and Melita got sent to Neo's school,
yes.
right? And so this is why I was like, oh, well, clearly they got sent after Roman fucked up being their babysitter. That was the implication I got, but again, people are arguing about the timeline. I don't care anymore. And so... they turned off her alarm and stole her clothes. So at this point, like, the twins are, like, bullying Neo again. Like, we're back to, you know, people bullying, Neo. So she uses her semblance to appear all dressed and basically trick them, right? Because basically what happens is Neo wakes up, she's late for class, she can't find her clothes, and so she's just like, well, I can't go in my pajamas, so I'm just gonna, you know, I'm gonna magic my clothes and make it look like that I'm wearing them. And then, like, Melina and Militia are like, what the fuck? Like, are you sure we took her clothes? Where the fuck did she get that? Right, so anyway, Trivia imagines her voice would be musical, airy, and bright. And so I wonder if that was a reference to Casey, but I haven't heard Casey speak. And so I find that very interesting just because I don't think that Casey has that type of voice when she's speaking. She has a more, like, lower voice, but when she was saying that, I don't know, doesn't that feel kind of like Disney princess? Like, Neo's just, like, kind of like little, not Ariel per se, but, like, I don't know, like, when they were saying that, I imagine, like, some very, like, soprano Broadway, like, actresses,
true.
You know?
But for the longest time, I also thought Neo was trans. Yeah. So my guess was a deeper voice.
I guess, and so, yeah, I don't know, I just imagine, like, Trivia's just like, oh, just look, that Roman Torchwick is a crook.
We get it, anyway, we get it. You're so, trying to, like, have this be, like, a backdoor audition to voice Neo.
Let me in! Anyway, but she imagines her voice could be that way, so it's not actually, like...
My voice sounds like a spring breeze!
I know, let me in!
Rooster Teeth, call me!
Also, you missed my Little Mermaid joke.
I know,
I'm so
it was
sad.
really great.
I know. I rhymed Roman being a crook with the original line of the book.
Throw themselves prostrate at your feet and saying, Calxiyn, you musical goddess.
I know, I'm so sad. It's so sad, everybody.
You siren to anime boys.
I know. Like, cause she's like, it's like a storybook, and I said, but Roman, that Roman Torchwick. The crook. Anyway, I'm so funny. So yes, use of semblance is not permitted in the school. So the teacher knows that, like, this basically went on. She can basically see right through it. Not everyone has a semblance, and a lady must not make others inferior to her. You know so that's again where I was just like, I don't know,
like women don't step on toes. If like this was a truly gender equal society, it'd be like, nah, bitch, stomp on those toes.
I think what happened here is that she is just saying that so Neo will hide yourself. Because here's the thing, you can't make other people feel inferior to you, or you can't sneak your way in there, basically, I think is the mindset of, like, the headmistress. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, you know, if you come off as, not defenseless per se, but, like, a little bit, like, I don't know, like, how do you say, like, airheaded, I guess? You know what I mean? Like, if you come off as, like...
As dumber
than you are, then you can like,
use that
sneak.
As an advantage.
Right? So I think that was, like, the headmaster is just saying stuff, so they take it and internalize it for the purpose of later on spying on other people. And so it's almost like I don't know how to explain it, but you know when they say, like, you know, behind every great man is, like, a greater woman and stuff like that? Like, you don't want to make, I don't know, you don't want to make the men feel inferior, so you can, like, kind of, like, coyly, like, convince them to, like, do certain things. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But that's what she was saying. I think it's more like, don't reveal your semblance, because when you have to be sneaky, you shouldn't, like, people shouldn't know what your semblance is. Which I also think is funny, because you have that dichotomy of, like, you don't want to reveal what, actually, didn't My Hero Academia do this, where they were like, you know, you don't want to reveal what your quirk is, because then, like, the villains can, like, use it against you, but then at the same time, they had the fucking tournament, you know what I mean? And so I think that it's kind of like that, where it's kind of interesting that in RWBY, they have the Vital Festival, right?
Where everyone would know.
Right,
and it's like the bandits and everyone, you could have someone with a crazy semblance, and you'd know it, because they were basically a celebrity, like Coco's basically a celebrity.
Or Pura, you mean?
Or Pura and Coco, they said were celebrities.
And so, semblances are a reflection of our true selves. Ladies do not reveal more than they need to. So see, that was the line where I was like, okay, there's something a bit more not sexist in there somewhere, right? Ladies don't tattle. So that was the other thing, right? Because Neo was like, okay, well, I only use my semblance because they stole my clothes. And so she was like, well, ladies don't tattle either. So that was kind of interesting, right? But Beat does have a very interesting opinion, right? Because at first I was like, you know, don't snitch. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is that? But she says, Beat's opinion is that ladies must learn how to interact with others and settle their own disputes, which I think is kind of interesting. Like, obviously, I think that it's a bit weird to kind of promote the idea of, oh, you know, like, don't tattle on other people if they're bullying you, because there is, to a point, like, adults' responsibility to mediate in that space, like a space like a school. But you could also argue that at this point, they're all in college, you know, like to an extent. Like, this is kind of like the boarding school. She's like 16 now, and that's kind of like the starting age for Beacon, which is considered kind of like a post-secondary, right after you're done combat school. So I think that is kind of interesting as an idea, but I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about her being like, yeah, like, I'm not going to do anything about it. You figure it out. But at the same time, is that not like every school administration?
I guess, so you know what, like that's pretty realistic for a school admin. Oh, bullying? Where?
But it's kind of interesting because then she says, like, you can do whatever you want to settle the dispute, just don't kill them.
Just don't break the rules, or if you do, don't get caught.
And don't kill anyone, because that's a lot of paperwork and I don't want to do it. So I think that's actually kind of funny that Beat's recommendation was you can do whatever you want, just don't kill them. Or if you break the rules, don't get caught doing it. And so, yeah, I don't know. It was a very interesting, because at first you're like, oh, this lady's like, this is getting kind of weird. You know, E.C. Myers, what are you doing? But then there's kind of like an interesting twist on, I guess, things that we would normally consider like bad, administrative, you know what I mean? Anyway, so her uniform was torn apart and she goes to class in her pajamas. And so the students fix their own problems. You can't put the moon back together.
I wrote that down as well.
That's what Neo says. And so that's actually a reference to the fairy tale book, remember? Because the moon falls out of the sky and they like use it to make the sun and all that stuff, right? Instead of putting the moon back together. You have to destroy to make something better. And so I thought that was interesting because she basically sews the uniform back together herself and kind of makes like a fashion design.
And kind of makes a pseudo of her early design almost.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it sounds like, right? And so I think that was actually like kind of the interesting part of the chapter is that she, you know, she actually uses the sewing that she didn't like very much either, right? She says that she feels more like herself. Her name is still felt like a coat that didn't fit. She would need to tailor that too, right? And so that's foreshadowing, right, to the name change. And her
talking about changing her name. Neo isn't trans.
Yeah.
But she feels trans, you know?
I mean, it's like the Little Mermaid thing that we said before, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's allegorical in nature. But her talking about name doesn't feel right. I don't like how this makes my voice feel.
Yeah, and I think
like
that's
other people's perception of me.
Right?
I want to change my perception of them.
So I feel like we could do like a whole new video. I mean, we already did. I feel like we could do another one.
But before I was like heavy on, you were Neo, I was Penny. Now I'm like, oh, Neo, my new baby.
Then she gives herself half pink, half brown hair with her semblance. So this is like her metamorphosis. You know what I mean? Like she basically like her clothes get ripped up. She has a conversation with the headmaster, and then she's basically like changes her entire self to be more like how she is. Because I guess if students have to solve their own problems and settle their own disputes, I guess that the idea for trivia was kind of like, how can I settle my own dispute with other people if I haven't finished like the dispute I'm having with myself, or if I have not embraced the part that would help me settle those disputes, which is Neo, right? So she doesn't want to be too much like the other girl, right? And so she says that about Neo. She doesn't want to be too much like Neo. She wants to embrace still like the trivia part of herself.
Because she stopped seeing Neo after her mom broke Neo.
And so I said, so now it's like 50-50. Right? And so I think that that's like very interesting is now she's kind of, I still like the fact that they did not be like, oh, throw this in the trash. Like, I like that she didn't just throw trivia in the trash, right? She still kept trivia because trivia still has, like, qualities that are, like, important to her, you know? And then, okay, so she's following Melanie and Militia, and she turns into a fern and, like, just sits there behind them. And I thought that was funny. So they want to sneak out to go to a club, and Neo wants to follow them. So Neo disguises herself as an elderly man while she's, like, walking, while they're, you know, being followed. And so I wonder if that was like a shopkeep reference, right? Because it's like, you know how
Neo would shopkeep the entire time.
Yeah, you know how people joke around? I think, anyway. And so then they go to the Harmony Club, which obviously that's kind of like generic, like, name for a club,
yes.
but that's fine. And so Roman gets thrown through a window at this point. So again, remember, we have, like, the clothes ripped up situation. She sews her uniform back together. She does her hair. She has her little transformation. Yeah. She follows them because she wants to get them in trouble. And she's like, okay, well, as long as I don't get caught breaking the rules, I'll catch them breaking the rules, right?
And she's looking at them from a distance in an alleyway.
Basically, right? And then Roman gets, like, tossed, his ass gets tossed through a window, right? And so this is where we get, if you girls wanted to dance, you just had to, all you had to do was ask, right? And so then she notices that Militia and Melanie have blades hidden in shoes. Great idea. And so I think that that was kind of the inspiration for the blade being in her umbrella, right? Instead of her having a gun, which I thought was very interesting, right? So she almost took inspiration from them, even though they were kind of like the enemy characters.
It's been so long since I've watched the Yellow trailer. Did they, I know because Yang fights the two of them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Knife shoes in that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. I mean, they fought with their feet anyway. I remember
exactly, a lot of kicking.
Right? And so I said, so they're here to kill Roman for Mom, I said. Trivia decides to get involved because she thought they'd stop bullying her if she helps them. So at first, she was going to help Melanie and Melita fuck up Roman. But then she's kind of like, oh, but you know, Roman didn't provoke the fight. He didn't do anything wrong. So she basically stumbles in the middle because she's not entirely sure who she's going to side with yet. So we get kind of like that high school clickiness of, oh, well, maybe if I help them bully someone, right? Maybe if I help them bully someone, they'll leave me alone. So at first she's like, oh, I'll go help Melanie and Melita because they'll see me as like valuable and then they'll keep me around. But I think that's almost like, I don't want to say metaphorical per se, but it's almost metaphorical in a way, right? Because at first she tries to go to the people that she thinks like, oh, these people will value me, and because of my value to them, they will keep me around and leave me alone. But then Roman is just kind of, I don't want to say defenseless, but like he didn't provoke the fight. So it's almost as if like Roman never asked anything of her, or like didn't have a predetermined value. Like he wasn't like, oh, you know, Neo can be valuable to me, right? But the twins, in a way, like that would be like the only reason why Malia and like Melanie would be friends with Neo is because of her value to them as, I guess, like an ally in combat. You know what I mean? It's very transactional. Whereas with Roman, she just wanted to help Roman because he looked innocent.
It was less like
yeah. And so I think that's interesting is like everybody else in Neo's life has like used her for something, like with Roman being the exception. And so we can kind of see how that weaves its way in, because she's like, oh, I'll only help them because then they'll stop bullying me, right? Whereas with Roman, she just decides to help him because you know, out of the goodness of her heart, I guess, because that's what feels right, right? And so, like, everyone else, even at the school, like, the headmistress basically uses her to try to catch Roman, and it's all transactional relationship, whereas her relationship with Roman didn't really start on a transaction. Like, she does kind of, like, pretend like she's gonna betray him. Like, there's just this whole thing, because the headmaster basically is like, hey, like, you know, help me turn in Roman Torchwick, and then you can graduate in the upper levels or something, right? Like, I'll move you up, and you'll be the star of the school, and you can do whatever you want, right? And so at first, like, she almost, like, agrees to that, but, like, the whole thing at the end is she betrays the headmaster, not Roman, and I feel like that's because Roman has been the most, like, genuine person towards her. And so do you have anything else to say, Hunter, before we move on to chapter 12?
Honestly, the last note, this is at this point my notes become very like sparse, and the last one I wrote was Neo isn't trans, but she feels trans.
Oh, that was the last thing. Nothing to say about the
Other
metaphor.
Than I did really, I think that like those back-to-back episodes, or I guess it was just the one chapter where she kind of like becomes her true self, her kind of combined hybrid identity of Neo and Trivia, and then meets Roman was a real highlight, I think, for me of the book.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And so now let's move on to chapter 12. So I'm just making my little note. Okay, so Roman was here to see Honeywine, who I guess is like the owner of this club, right?
And I think she was the one who was mentioned earlier who has the voice that's able to like drug people or
so
like
she's you know, she's been back, I guess you could say. She's come back here.
The Pied Piper.
And then you have Hai just watching and waiting for the police or Little Miss to deal with Roman. So that's Roman's like rationale to why he hasn't basically been like caught or like how do you say it? Like
murder.
Oh, Okay, sure. I was gonna say, like, that Hai isn't fucking with him,
Shut
basically.
down.
Because remember how Hai was like, well, either Little Miss wants you dead, or, right, or, you're here on her behalf, right? So his, like, whole thing is, like, either, like, Little Miss will kill him if it's true that he is, that he ran away from her, or the police will catch him eventually. So Hai just sees no reason, I guess. Roman has carried on a long and successful crime spree while avoiding stepping on Hai's, toes, basically. So he's been keeping out of, like, Hai's, like, I don't know, his turf, I guess you could say, right? And so I guess that's also
Try
like,
not to antagonize him.
yeah, like that's also the other reason. So basically he's here to catch up with Honey, and then the girls like basically come for him, right? And so what's interesting about like just some like world building like for Honey is that she wears fire dust glitter. And I thought that was interesting world building because like someone could literally like blow her up. You know what I mean? Like she's
when
wearing
you think
the
about
dust.
it, like how
it's not great, but
imagine
it's like,
smoking a cigarette and just your face
I mean,
burning
I guess it's a statement, right? Like, it's a
suppose
statement
so.
of, like, oh, I live dangerously. And we know that people sew dust into their clothes and stuff, so I think that was really cool.
But we also appreciate how volatile dust really is in this book. So
Yeah.
part of me's just like, imagine like accidentally.
But that's why
like,
it's more of a statement, right?
I guess so. Like,
it's
I'm
like
dangerous.
a fashion statement.
Like, mess with me.
Yeah. And so Little Miss is moving in on Vale. Roman turning up the heat is jeopardizing her. So basically, like, Roman doing more crime is jeopardizing, like, Little Miss's, like, want to, like, move into Vale. And so Roman sees Trivia, oh dear, gesturing for him to follow her, okay? So, like, Roman's like, you know, or Roman, Neo's like, come here, Roman, like, come this way. And so he attacks the girls and then follows Trivia down the alley. Trivia leads them to a dead end and then uses her semblance to basically mask the both of them. And I thought that was very clever, right? She basically makes a wall and they're behind the wall, you know what I mean? And so they like, basically there's the dead end, right? And then they're here and then she makes the fake dead end and they think that it's
Like
real.
the cask
it's so
of
cool.
Amatrello, like the
I have
fake,
no idea what you're talking
fake
about.
wall from the what's his face, the Raven, Edgar Allan Poe book with the fake wall. You guys
okay.
know.
Anyway.
Well, do you not remember a couple months ago in Calxiyn's Royal Book Club when we read
my
the collected works of Edgar Allan Poe?
And so then
Ridiculous.
she makes a fake Roman to run down the street, which is so cool, right?
That was a really tense, clever, and it was just like Roman's like, oh my god, how are you doing? She's like,
I know, I love that too.
it was a really tense, funny, clever, like,
and
solution.
people think he's the one with the semblance. So, like,
Yeah.
I didn't know Roman had a semblance, right? Because I guess they see it disappear, and they're all like, what the fuck, right? And so, obviously, it was Neo, so that's fun. So, Trivia saved his life. He would live to die another day, right? And so, I love that. I love the live to... Or
And
wait,
I mean, wasn't wrong.
or, yeah, I guess, what... Do they say live to fight another day? Like, that's the actual phrase?
Live to die another day. Well, because that's a Bond movie, Die Another Day.
Isn't that like the twist on words though? Because isn't it usually he would live to fight another day?
I guess so,
But
yeah.
now it's like to die another day.
Yeah,
I like that.
but it's not an original. I think that's a kind of nihilistic take.
I know, but I like that.
But
like
I do
that.
like it for him.
And then he said he didn't like to be in debt or owe her his life, right? So at this point, like Neo actually has the leverage, right? Because like Roman was saved by her, and now Roman's like, well, I can't be in debt to this person, you know? And so that's kind of how their relationship starts. Anything about chapter 12, Hunter, before we move on?
It was like when two.
It was
idiots-
high stakes now.
It was, yeah.
Like,
It was
actually
really high
really
stakes,
good.
and it was really, really quite clever.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And sometimes that's the issue with like crime books, is that they necessitate people being clever, and it can be very hard to write
Yeah.
clever schemes and spur of the moment. You know, that's what I liked about Death Note, is that it always
Yeah.
felt like, oh, this is a really clever scheme.
Or Code
until it-
Geass or something,
Geass
right?
does to a less extent, and then I guess Death Note to a less extent. So I did like that. It was like, oh, this kind of hits a nice bar for me.
Yeah, and I thought that was really nice. And so now, let us go on to chapter 13. Okay, and so, yeah, so he saw her in the uniform. So I guess that this is, I guess I said that. Why did I say that? He saw her in the uniform, so...
He knows where she's at.
Yeah, so I guess what happened was Neo at the beginning of this chapter probably fucked off, right? Because I think she basically saves Roman and then she fucks off,
I think
right?
so.
So I guess that she left, you know what I mean? Like, she ran away from Roman, and so I guess what I wrote was, wait, but Roman saw her in the uniform, so does she think that he won't know, right? And so I think that was my thing, because she was back at the school, I guess, at this point. She reads Roman like a book that he hides behind a hat, a suit and ponytail, right? So again, we kind of have this implication that this is his concept art outfit. So I guess that was my mindset in writing that down, that like Neo was basically saying that she like fucked off and went home, and I was just like, oh, but wait, like, didn't Roman see her in the uniform? Roman's definitely gonna find her, you know? And so yeah, somebody tried to cut Trivia's hair during the night, but she grabbed it and scarred the person.
Yes, and so they call her Scarface for the rest of the book.
That was kind of fucked up.
That's, right? Like, there's a lot of Neo fucked up moments.
That girl was a bully, but now she gets bullied because everyone calls her Scarface. And so I was like,
you shouldn't cut someone's hair. I think that's a fair quid pro quo.
Oh, there's a tongue twister on page 130, on 175. Oh man, I don't have my book with me.
Do we pause the recording?
No, let's just, Arnold! No. It was just like a little, it was like, the grim do the such, and
yes, it was an in-universe tongue twister.
Yeah, and I thought it was really, really cool, and so unfortunately, we will not be going to go get it today. But go look at your book and look at page 175. There will be a test on this later, but I can't find it at the moment, okay? After the mom shattered Neo, she couldn't manifest her again. So that's Neo talking about, like, or yes, Trivia, I should say, being like, like, I couldn't manifest Neo after that day anymore, but now, like, Neo was always in here, So she reads up about Roman in class. She saw him as scared and vulnerable, so she knows there's more to him than just the news, right? So I thought that was interesting, too, right? Is that, like, if she had just read the stuff on Roman, she would assume one thing, but she saw, like, the true Roman that's not in the news. And so I thought that was just, like, a little interesting, like, random commentary,
Neo's just like, this guy isn't nearly as capable as these news outlets seem to think
or not even that, but just, like, we see this one image of someone, and then we think that, like, that's how they're, true. like, there was an element of, like, parasocial, like, social media stuff that I thought was kind of interesting. Yes, and so the uniform is for discovering individuality. So that was interesting. So basically what happens is she modifies her uniform, and
because
everyone's
the rules is that you have to wear the uniform, but you can modify it as much as you want.
Exactly, right? So this is the whole thing, is that she basically goes to class and everyone is like, oh, bro, like, what did she do to her clothes and her hair, right? But then lady, Beatrix or whatever her name is, right, the headmaster of the school, right, is like, nothing ever says that you can't modify the uniform, so we're surprised that people don't do it more. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those, like, loophole things, and that the uniform is about, like, discovering your individuality, because you can change it to stand out amongst other people. Like, everyone will wear it differently.
And working with a frame, which also kind of relates back to the whole, like, embracing femininity, but also working within its confines for, to better your position.
Mm-hmm. And I thought that was kind of interesting, especially because, like, we went to a uniform school, but that was definitely not allowed, right?
Nah, man.
The idea is when everyone wears the same thing, you can see the differences in how they wear it. It actually promotes the true self, or for them to express who they are,
because, I guess we did have colored hair in high school.
Well, yeah, but do you understand what I mean? Like, in the context of this, right? Like, when everyone else wears the same thing, you can see the subtle differences.
Yes.
More so if everyone just wore their own clothes, I guess, is, like, the idea. And I kind of like that, actually. And so then Lady Beatrice said that nobody's broken, and that she blames Trivia's parents for making her think she's broken. So we get a bit of a call out on the parents and their attitude right here, because I guess Neo is not upset per se, but she says something self-deprecating, I think, and Lady Beat's like, no, like, nobody's broken, and I blame your parents. And I was just like, oh man, like, she knew about that, I guess, right? No one ever asked what the spiral means, and so this is about the pin that they all wear, right? But it's the rule of thirds. 3 spirals to the center combine 3 primary colors, the superego, the ego, and the id. So this is like a big conversation in the book that they're having, and it's basically that, like...
Is that the first or the second time they mentioned Freud?
This is the first time.
Because
we just talked about it last week for some reason, but yeah.
Wait, okay, so I have this weird thing that I guess I don't know if I should bring it up now or I should bring it up later, but later we see Neo get her at the very end of the book after she nearly survives dying. She gets that little white thing. And so I just think that, like...
I think that's because she can embrace being a vanille now that her parents are dead. That's what I kind of got from that.
Because I almost wondered if that was, like, the id, ego, and superego. Like, the id is Neo, who just wants to fuck around and does whatever she wants.
Yeah.
Then vanilla is the... I believe it's ego is the social... Or no, superego is the social controls. Where she's like, well, I need to be good, and I'm under control of the socialist issues. And then that, like, white stripe maybe represents the two of them coming together.
Well, they're already together, though. So here's what I thought. I thought it's like...
But also, like, truly becoming herself. Like,
Neo is pink. Yeah. Trivia is brown, but vanille is vanilla, right? So I thought that, like, because her parents are dead at the end of the book... Well...
Vanilla beans. Anyways, continue.
You know what I mean, though? Like, in terms of, like, the white streak, right? Like, my whole idea was because, like, Trivia started out just as Trivia, like, brown hair on both sides. Then she added Neo. That's the pink. But that's Neo and Trivia, not, like, Neo and Trivia vanille. You understand what I mean? I think that the white is when her parents are dead, she can embrace being a vanille because there is... nothing else. It's almost like how Weiss wants to carry on the Schnee legacy, but legacy.
That is a Freudian slip. Now that we're on the topic of Sigmund Freud.
Legacy, because and she's just like fuck Jacques and fuck what Jacques did. I think that that's kind of what it is. She's reclaiming being a vanille in that moment because her parents that prevented her from socially being a vanille are now gone. Right? She still doesn't say that she's a vanille to anyone in the show, but, like, it hasn't exactly been brought up. So I think that, like, and you also have, like, Neapolitan, right? And so you could say that, like, in Neapolitan, is there not, like, both the Neo, the Trivia, and then the vanille, like, in the word, right? And so it's kind of a combination of all of her names, regardless. And so it's not that she's, Neapolitan vanille, it's just that she's Neapolitan because, like, she has incorporated Trivia and vanilla in the rest of her name, right?
Yeah.
So who knows? We have our best instincts, our worst impulses, and expectations from society, right? But we need harmony. So I think best instincts is Trivia. Yeah. Worst impulses is Neo. And then the expectations from society was the white streak. But then those kind of change because her parents are dead. That's how I sort of saw it, right?
Wait, read that one more time. I don't think that's the correct definition of id, ego, and superego.
Well, that's what they said in the book. That's what she explains it as.
Our best
instincts, our worst impulses, and expectations from society. Or it could have also been, like, our best, like, inclination, like, our best
Someone
judgment.
Didn't have an intro to psychology course.
Oh, man. Well, that's how Lady Beatrix explains it, though. She's not saying, you know what I mean? She's just saying that generally, not, like, that's the explanation of id, superego, and then the ego thing. Anyway, you can't let one aspect dominate or suppress another, and you can't remove any part, right? And so I kind of like that, because, again, that's, like, kind of the whole thing of, I like how they didn't just, like, this Trivia, we're throwing Trivia in the trash. Like, instead we embraced all of the aspect. And so I feel like that's why she couldn't embrace being a vanille until her parents were dead, right? Because she wasn't part of the family at that point. But then there was nothing stopping her from being a vanille, or openly being a vanille in front of, like, the rest of society as well, I guess, in a way. And so I think that, like, that, I really like that aspect of the book, is that we weren't throwing away Trivia or her family name either. You know what I mean? It was just modifying it so she could embrace the parts that she wanted from it, right? And I kind of like that. Bring them all together for something beautiful. And so I said, but we only have brown and pink, so where's the white? Like, I wrote that down at this point. Maybe the family name, i.e. societies, and I wrote that down too. So that's what I think that it ended up being, right? Lady Beatrix wants them to figure out the loopholes in the rules or break them without getting caught. So that was, again, something that you were saying, Hunter. Lady Beat realizes she failed Trivia because Trivia is bored here. And I'm like, what a mood. ADHD trans Neo, let's go. Right? That's how I felt. That's how I felt my entirety of school. But anyway, there's a secret advanced curriculum, right? So this is where we get into, like, this isn't just a girls' school. Like, there's something, like, cool going on. She wants Trivia to find what Roman is planning and turn him in to get the school good exposure, because Roman endangers the school. But I said, how? How does Roman endanger the school? So I'm guessing the reason why is because, like, there's only room for one crime boss in Vale, and Lady Beatrix is technically, even if High thinks he's the only crime boss, Beatrix is technically the biggest crime boss. You know what I mean? If Roman found out, that would jeopardize the business of the school in a way, right? So I guess that is how Roman jeopardized the school, because I was like, well, what interest does she have in getting rid of Roman? Well, first of all, she's in contact with Miss Malachite.
Yeah,
the girls
so
go there.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah, but
That's
in hindsight, like, you know, in hindsight, is that not why, like, right? And so, yeah, so Neo gets her own room. Now she gets self-defense, social engineering, the art of escape, and computer science. And so I said, is this a crime school?
Ha! She can code. You hear? She is trans.
And so, wait, what?
That's a stereotype.
Is it?
Yeah, trans women code.
You can't, though.
I know. I'm a bad trans woman.
Oh, dear.
Listen,
Anyway.
trans women are either they're cam girls, they're computer scientists,
Yeah.
or they're vaporwave artists.
Okay, so what are you?
I guess a cam girl.
Oh my gosh, it's just like Hunter's like a couple steps away from being a cam girl.
I guess so, yeah.
You know, it's funny. I don't want to like give this any attention, but I remember I was vanity searching, as I sometimes do. This was like a year ago or so. I try not to do it anymore. It was like a year and a half ago. I don't remember. But I was looking at my own name, and somebody had wrote on, like, I don't know, like a Kiwi Farms or 4chan thread or something.
Okay.
They were like, you know, something, such and such, and Calxiyn still doesn't have an OnlyFans. And I was just like, y'all aren't getting that, but Hunter's apparently a couple steps away from being a cam girl.
Hey man.
All right, so
let's have like a tasteful nude OnlyFans.
It's not gonna be me, but
we can do it anonymously. We can work together as a group.
Oh my
we don't
God.
have to show my face.
And so, yeah, that's just something that this reminded me of. Why
you heard it first here.
Yeah, not for me, but maybe Hunter is what I'm trying to tell you.
I
Anyway,
think me and Arnold could. I'm joking.
oh my God. Okay, so we never knew what Jimmy was doing in the basement. That's something that I wrote down, because I was like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Because I was thinking about that. I was like, oh, you know, is this a crime school? Then I was like, we never knew what Jimmy was afraid of blowing up, right? And so
crime
obviously,
school for criminals.
you know, I was on to them, I guess you could say, right? So Trivia goes shoplifting at this point, and she shoplifted some pink hair dye so she could permanently do her hair. A burner scroll, spy gadgets. They just have spy gadgets at the department store, you know. A lock-picking kit, books, video games, outfits, and a gift for someone special. So that's Roman, obviously, right? And so we do get some romantic inclinations. There is slight romantic coding, I would say, to their relationship, or I guess some of that sort of stuff, right? Like, oh, I'm getting a gift for someone special. Like, there is some crushing, I would say, right? And so, anyway, so Neo is shoplifting, right? And then Roman was following her incognito, and she whacks him, right? She finds him cute. Roman's dialogue on 184 is wholesome. Unfortunately, I did not write down the wholesome dialogue.
Nor do we have it
So
with
please
us.
turn to page 184. But I think it was kind of like, oh, you know, I was following you. I mean, if you want to go out for tea, we can go out. Like, it was very, like, he was
fumbling
awkward.
over his words.
He was fumbling over his words. He was like, yeah, you know, if you want to know how I followed you, I mean, I wasn't following you like that, but, you know, you saved me the other night, so if you want to know, I mean, we can go talk about it. Like, he was very awkward and, like, kind of shy. It was nice.
Because Neo is real confidence, but doesn't really project it, where Roman projects confidence, but isn't confident.
He's a softie. I really liked the dialogue
He's
there.
a softie, and Neo is a fucking serial killer, so, like, how they interact is just, like, mwah.
It was very nice.
Which is why I want them to have a second book so bad.
She tells Roman that she's Neapolitan. It felt like a fresh start. So at this point, she actually tells Roman that she's not Neo, or she's not Trivia, I should say. He reads her expressions well.
They used the full name Neapolitan?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's kind of interesting. I think maybe she just says Neo, but I think that she does say Neapolitan. And so he also, like, is able to tell what she's saying, even though she's not talking. And I thought that that was really cool. Like, Roman reads her expressions. He's like, yeah, I know what you're thinking, right? And she's like, oh, what? Like, what am I thinking? You know? And then he says exactly what she was thinking. And he's like, oh, you know, this guy kind of understands me. So that was nice. She goes with Roman. He's going to tell her how he found her. And then we get to chapter 14. So I just find that interaction very, like, wholesome. This is where things were picking up. I was like, crime. Let's go, you know what I mean? Like, crime school, woo! Like, that was, like, the whole thing.
I also like that a running theme is Neo shoplifting.
Oh, yeah.
I like to imagine...
that was what I was just like, oh my god, like, Neo's just shoplifting all the time.
Imagine
right?
how much pink hair dye she has shoplifted. Like,
Yeah,
there is
I know.
not a hot topic on the face of Remnant that she has not busted into
I guess.
to steal her bubblegum pink.
And so now
Permanent hair dye.
let's move on to
Manic
chapter
panic.
14. All right, everyone, let us get back into it. And we found the book. It was here all along. So we are going to read to you the tongue twister, and then we will read the Roman dialogue just for some context, okay? The gruesome Grim grew greedy. Get to that greedy, gruesome Grim, Gregory. Go, Gregory, go. The greedy, gruesome Grim, gored Gregory. Goodbye, Gregory, goodbye. The gory, greedy Grim gave a gruesome grin. And that's
really fucked up when I think
tongue
about it.
twister. Yeah, that's the first time I read it out loud, and now I actually, like, understand. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was actually, like, that's pretty fucked up, you know what I'm saying?
That's a lot more. That's like if, like, seashells that she sold by the seashore were a euphemism for, like, cocaine.
Oh my god. And so, yes, now let's look at the dialogue that,
The cute Roman dialogue.
The cute Roman dialogue. Let's see. Okay, I don't know what was cute about this. Oh, okay. My name's Roman, Roman Torchwick. Oh, which of course you know. I mean, not of course, not to make it sound like I'm famous or anything. So that's basically what he said. So this whole page, so first, right, he's apologizes for, like, surprising her, and he's like, hey, kid, like, whoa, sorry for the surprise, it's me, but, like, Trivia, like, still scowls at him, right, because she doesn't like being called kid, and he's like, no, I thought you'd be happier to see me, not sure why, and then, she rolled her eyes, he didn't get it, hold on, I know, you don't like being called kid, right, so that's where she says Trivia was astonished, right, and so that's kind of interesting, right, because she's shocked that Roman is able to read and her, like, body language,
treat
right?
her like an adult as well.
Yeah, I guess so, right? And so, yeah, there's just some really cute, like, dialogue here, you know? And so, anyway, and so let's get now to chapter 14, I guess we are at? Okay. So they are having tea at the Laughing Dog, and so the pin tipped him off, he said, because he knows that, like, the pin and the uniform are from the school, right? That was kind of the idea. He stuffs a whole sandwich in his mouth to impress her. What? That's what I was like, what is happening, right? That's what he says anyway.
That sounds like weird, like, romantic
high
advice.
School boy. So see,
you get from incels on Reddit?
No. That seems like, you know, teenage boy type thing. So you guys still think there's a 10-year age gap? What 30-year-old man is putting a whole sandwich in his mouth because he thinks that that's impressive? Like, no. I think that people misread the timeline, and there was actually less time on Roman's end than was previously realized. I think that Roman's only in his early 20s at this point.
Maybe that's like his how he does it with all, like, potential romantic partners.
I don't know, but do
he
you
just
understand?
shows them he doesn't have a gag reflex.
But do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got
you. You know what I mean? Like,
he doesn't seem old.
Again, I don't want to argue about the age gap. I don't want to argue about the age gap thing anymore, but I think that people are like, but it's 10 years, and you can see because, you know, Roman got to Vale while Neo was burning down her house, and I'm just like, but I feel like we're missing something, because what guy, also, Neo says that he doesn't look much older than she is, right? So why would she say that if it's not true? I don't know. Anyway, and so, learn how to disguise yourself before you're gonna commit a crime, and then he pointed at the pin, right? Basically, he traced, like, the pin back to the school, but she makes a copy of herself to turn into Roman, and, like, he freaks out, basically. So she's like this, you know what I mean? And so she basically turns into Roman to make a point, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Because she's just like, well, you don't disguise yourself. You're out here telling everyone you're Roman fucking Torchwick, right? So she basically wears his skin for a minute. Roman would rather rely on charm, good looks, and intellect and cheating. So he basically says, I don't need a disguise, right? But he sees her power as valuable for heist despite looking down on semblances. And so we get, like, that little bit, right? Changes into current lay low design Roman, and so basically like Neo turns into regular Roman and is like, hey, well, you don't like stay incognito, but then she turns into disguise Roman to basically ask him like, but what are you doing out here? Because now I guess he's just in all black, he has like a hat on, right? Like he's trying to be like, you know, sneaky. She asks how he knows the Malachites, and he basically tells her his whole life story. And so I have another page number here, and so I guess let's look at the whole life story.
You know, for someone who didn't remember to bring the book at the beginning of this video,
I know, I wrote a lot of page numbers. All right then. He told her about his mother abandoning him as a child in Windpath, about living on the street, stealing to survive, joining Little Miss Malachite's organization as a step towards bigger and better things. By the time he was finished, their second pot of tea was empty, and Neapolitan had had her fill of sandwiches in case. I've never told anyone all that before. Then again, he hadn't known anyone who would have cared, but I'm nothing special. Lots of people in Mistral have a story like that, right? Present company accepted. You aren't a hardened criminal yet, and I wouldn't recommend it, right? And then he says, I mean, sure, do whatever you want. No one can tell you what to do. You can stay up late if you want. Like, you know what I mean? As long as you don't get caught or mixed up with someone like Little Miss, right? Because I think he knows that she's like shoplifting at this point, right? And so, yeah. And so then she like runs down her hair, right? Because he's like, oh, you're gonna do the other half for your hair dye. But then she basically like reveals that she did that as her semblance. And so he's like, oh, you did one half and wanted to see if you liked it first before you committed. Very smart, very smart. Like they just have a very funny conversation. You know what I mean? Like they just have a very interesting conversation about the hair stuff. And I love how like Roman just understands her and her body language. Like it's very endearing. You don't fall into a life of crime when you grow up having everything, right? And so Roman disagrees, right? So I guess, I don't know if he knew that Neo was a vanilla at this point, because later he's surprised, but I think that he's basically saying like, oh, lots of people in Mistral live on the streets like I do. That's how they fall into the crime. You don't fall into crime if you have everything in life.
You don't
like,
fall in your
he
crime
doesn't
from
know
a
that she's
mansion.
rich yet.
Yes.
Right?
Or came from money.
Yeah, I love how Roman just figures Neo out. He likes her hair and her eyes, right? I wonder if Roman isn't actually 10 years older, but rather the story's segmented. Neo is 18 and Roman is 22. Anyway, that may not be the correct math, but this is where I was wondering, well, wait a minute. They're having a conversation as if they're the same age. I think that something's wrong.
Is that an 18 or a 16?
That's a... I don't remember. Oh, maybe it was supposed to be an 18, because later they say that, oh, she's 18, buddy. Step away, you know, when they talk later on, right?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Roman asked Neo to snoop around the academy for him. And so now we get, like, double dipping, basically. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, Roman asked Neo to spy, and then, like, the Lady B is asking the same. And then Neo stole Roman a new hat with a tracking device, which will be important later.
And a little red feather in it.
Yes, and so Neo doesn't want to risk getting kicked out of school, but, you know... Roman, I don't know, something about this Roman guy. She likes him, right? Obviously. And so then they dine and dash, and they use her semblance to make fake money, to make it seem like they paid, great. Which I think is so funny. I don't know how Neo semblance works either. So I guess Roman's like, I have no idea how this works. And I'm just like, I don't fucking know. I couldn't tell you, right? Roman wants Neo to find him if she needs a favor. Chemistry is on point. So that was my, like, basically little thing at the end of the chapter, is that I really liked how they did, like, the chemistry and the conversations between them. It felt very real and endearing, and we got to see the real
and
Roman.
What I really loved about Roman is that he appreciates everything in Neo that other people want to tamper down, like her hair and her kind of burgeoning aesthetic and her double or heterochromatic eyes.
Yeah, and so I thought it was just nice. Like, it was just really nice to see, like, you know, them interact together, right? Because obviously when we see Roman, we don't really ever see Roman alone, do we? When you really think about it. Like, the times where we see Roman, he's either interacting with Cinder, and so he's putting on airs in a way for that, or it's like Team RWBY. So obviously he wouldn't reveal his true self. So now we get to know, like, the real sweet, endearing, like, you know, perfect man Roman, I guess, right? And so,
perfect man.
Exactly. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people are definitely going to have more of a crush on Roman now after this. And so let's move on now to chapter 15.
Do you hypothesize an increase in Roman fanfiction?
Yeah, for sure. I think so, anyway. And so then we have Manda Rin, a huntress, older woman teacher. I guess. And so this is the fighting instructor, but Mandarin sounds like Mandarin, as in like not the language, but the Canadian fast food Chinese buffet. And so I don't know what was intentional with that or not, because like everyone's kind of named after food, right? You have rock salts, candy floss, Mandarin, like I don't know. Anyway, and so that would be kind of weird if there was just a Mandarin reference.
Meyer's Canadian? What do you know?
Do you guys have Mandarin in the U.S.?
I don't think Mandarin's a Canadian only thing. I have to do research. Continue.
Not fighting is a privilege. Entrusting your safety to people like me is a privilege, right? So they basically brought in a huntress to do like combat training. And so it's like not fighting is a privilege. You should all learn how to fight because you should not trust other people to save you, basically. Like that's a privilege to have other people protect you like Huntsman. And so I wrote down that it was a good fight scene. Need to do whatever it takes to get what you want. So I think that the lady said that, and so I thought that that was interesting because that reminded me, I watched something else with that. Oh, it was Odd Taxi. I'm not going to explain why, because that's kind of a spoiler, but a character has a conversation with their mom later in the show about like, oh, like I'm doing things, I found out I needed to do anything to like make my dreams come true. Right? And like anything is kind of anyway. And so, yeah, it was Odd Taxi. Defend yourself from other people. Respect isn't enough to keep people safe and listen to you. You need admiration. So that was kind of interesting too. I don't remember when they said that, but again, that's sort of the thing like of, we're not going to make people feel inferior to us. We're going to kind of stay like in the background, right? Like you kind of want people to admire you, not necessarily respect you, like you, and like, as a lady, like some people won't like you if you assert yourself too much. So stay in the shadows and get people's admiration. Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's almost like, the honey catches the flies, but in this case, the honey like catches the crimes.
It's almost like she's aware of how women are perceived.
Yeah.
Is that like if a woman does half what a man will do, she will seem as like pushy and
or
bitchy,
a bitch, right? Like bossy.
Whereas a man will be like totally appropriate. This is fine.
And so I think that that's like very fascinating, And so then I wish you followed up, Hunter, but anyway. And so then we have the twins who are asking Neo like, oh, come sit with us, right? She's gonna pretend to be their friends. She never wanted to be accepted by the popular kids, right?
I'm not like other girls.
I don't think that was it. I don't think that it was supposed to be like that, Hunter. I think it was more supposed to be like she didn't ever dream of being like a popular girl per se. She just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah,
And so it's kind of like, I don't think it's like I'm better than them. I'm not like the other girls. It was more like in terms of her social situation, she'd rather just have like one friend that she could rely on. That's all she ever wanted, not being accepted by the popular people. And so I feel like that's the idea, right? Anyway, they're interested in her dad, in Jimmy, so obviously the girls are just kind of using her. Neo thinks he's by the book in on the rules. I don't think so. So that's what
Jimmy thinks he's by? Right? No. Long pause. I'm like, what book did you read? The books. And I'm like...
No. I was confusing my sentences again. I'm a little dyslexic, guys. Anyway, and so yes, what I was trying to say was they're like, oh, but councilmen are all corrupt, right? He must be in something, right? He must be in on something. And like Neo's like, no, he's pretty by the rules, He's pretty big on rules and stuff. And I was like, I don't think so. So the Malachites are basically the ones being like, oh, well, your dad must be involved in something. He's a councilman, right? And Neo's just like, no, he's pretty by the rules, And so,
but anyway, little does she know.
Exactly.
I didn't realize how much they plant that early on.
Oh, yeah. It was so blatant to me, anyway.
It went right over my head.
Especially we could have blown up the house. How,
I didn't think of that. I just thought he was like, oh, he's being unreasonable and like over dramatic. Well, I mean, you didn't light the house on fire, but you know what I mean.
Neo is playing Roman and Beatrix. The twins invite her to the club. Lady Beat gave them the same deal, basically. And so she gave the Malachite twins the same deal, or at least Neo thinks so. But I think that the Malachite twins are doing it because of the mom. I don't think that they're technically doing it because of Lady Beatrix. I just think that they tried to plant that in Neo to give her some competition and some momentum to actually catch Roman. Do you understand what I mean? Like, I think that Lady Beatrix and Miss Malachite were always in on it, so the Malachite twins, like, they don't need, like, special treatment at the school, right? Like, I think that it was all manufactured basically to like encourage Neo to be like, oh, well, the Malachite twins, I can't let them get my special privileges, right? Pitting them against each other, but the Malachites knew, whereas Neo didn't. That's how I kind of understand it. Neo wants to keep Roman close and protect him from the twins so she can turn him in at this point. So that's sort of what I mean, right? If they manufactured, like, Lady Beatrix manufactured a rivalry, getting the twins to instigate or to how do you say, like, not instigate, to, like, basically, like, fuck with Neo, right? To fuck with Neo, so yes. Neo would be like, well, I can't let them get my prize. I can't let them take my deal. Neo rejects the offer to go out, basically, and so then she goes back to Roman, in a way, I guess, is basically where she's going next, right? And so I found that pretty interesting, like, just, like, the layers of all of this, you know what I mean? Like, did the twins really want to bully her, or were they told by Lady Beatrix to bully her, right? Like, there's just a bunch of, like, questions like that, because doesn't it seem just random for them to just pick on Neo one day? Like, I feel like that they did it all on purpose. Like, it was like the falling dominoes. They were trying to put everything in place. So that is all for chapter 15 that I have to say about that. Do you have anything else, Hunter?
No, I do not.
So, then we have Little Miss is at the door, but it's really Neo, right? So Neo pretends to be Little Miss. Too short, the mole is on the wrong side, and unless she got work done, she looked older the last time Roman saw her, is his explanation, right?
That's really funny.
And so it's funny because it seems like Neo's illusions are subject to height, which I personally never realized before. But couldn't you do kind of like a trickery where you... I don't know how to explain this. Well, she can create
physical objects, correct? So she could make like little stilts for herself.
Yeah, like, could you make stilts and then pretend to be Jean, basically, is what I'm asking. Yeah, because
so far, like, who has she been? She's been
Because I don't think
Oscar.
that rule...
She's been Nora.
I don't think that rule has been present in the show. I think that they just used the character models, because I think that, like, Nora is considerably taller than Neo, whereas Oscar, sure, like, that could pass, right? Like, I buy it, but I feel like that isn't done in the show. But I'm asking, couldn't Neo do something where she somehow makes an illusion that she's tall? Like, say her head's here, could she not put Jean's head up here to make herself seem taller? Like, you know what I mean? Like, in the future and stuff. But yeah, I don't think that's gonna apply to the show just because of budget. At the same time, though, how hard is it to shrink a model? Like, can't you just shrink it?
Honestly,
like, well, I don't know. That would probably fuck with the rigging, though, because the rigging is for a certain height and stuff.
That is true.
But at the same time, I have a 3D VTuber model, and I can make it bigger and smaller, and everything works the same.
But
it's
everything's
just the illusion of size. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just zooms in and out versus actually making it small. I don't know what tricks they could use in the show. I don't know anything. Anyway, so... Little Miss would knock down the door, not knock, right? 2, she always has a bodyguard. People underestimate her if they see a bodyguard with her. She doesn't really need one. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Really? Like, she can fuck people up.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what Roman says. And so I find that fascinating just because of that whole thing that we've talked about, like, oh, you know, as a lady, right, you must seem inferior to other people, so they underestimate you. Right? Little Miss takes that advice and has bodyguards to make it seem like she's weak, when actually she can cut a bitch.
I like that. I would almost kind of want to see Little Miss fight.
3rd, she never leaves Mistral, which makes the Veil takeover even more weird. I wrote that down, right? But she does leave, and so Roman's just wrong, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Lady Beat is doing the takeover, not Little Miss. That's what I wrote down. Kinda correct. Anyway,
mostly correct, yes.
Only impersonate people you've seen in real life. So that is the advice that Roman gives Neo, I guess. Yeah. And so maybe that's why she hasn't turned into somebody like Pyrrha, because she didn't get to see Pyrrha up close enough to mimic her.
Maybe. It would be interesting that if she does become Pyrrha, if you look really closely, there's little things
that stuff like off about her.
Like hair is a different color or
Do we
red.
have the budget for that? They didn't put Pyrrha in the new engine, or at least they only put the top half of her. So I don't know. I feel like that they could do that if they have the money. I don't know. Damn. So Neo planted a bug in his hat. So because Roman's like, how the fuck did you get here? Like, how did you know how to find me? And so she planted a bug, and I thought that was so funny.
In his little hat.
Which means she found Roman's hat because she found his body, unless it's a fake hat. So basically what I was trying to say there is, like, in the show, when she finds Roman's hat and brings it in volume 6, is it because she found Roman's body or found the remnants of Roman, like, you know, the Grimm pooped him out and he's just like, you know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of a sad thing to think about, but like, is the hat she uses now in the show just an imitation of the hat Roman used to wear? Or is it the real hat? We're gonna get a really
sad scene where she's like in the aftermath of
like
Beacon,
volume
just
3.
Finds his hat.
I really like that idea. Roman says he can help modify the umbrella. She wants a hidden blade, not a gun. LOL. Need to learn how to fight without relying on semblance first, and then she kicks his ass. Right? They fell into a comfortable rhythm. Roman taught her everything she knew, picking locks, stealing cars, forgery. Roman gets Neo her own custom parasol with her design. It was just really sweet. Roman says he's out of money, though, so they ought to commit a real crime. He's like, yeah, I kind of used the last of my savings.
All my money. Haven't we all done that? Blown all our money. Blown all our money.
Oh my god, somebody left the funniest comment. Partner. You know what's, so somebody left a comment, and they were like, Cal says she can't afford the Oscar and Happy Huntress shirts because Rooster Teeth made her broke. Also, Cal, $500 worth of candles. And I was like, to be fair, I bought the candles first. So yeah, and so I said, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop with the dad here, because I guess they were talking about the dad again, so I'm like, I'm just waiting for them to bring up the dad again or something. Neo makes him a new outfit, so again, the sewing came in clutch, I guess you could say. He wants to steal coffee, question mark? Because and I was like, why?
I think, I don't know this for certain, but I think E.C. Myers took this plot from the Bond movie Goldfinger. Because in that movie, they go to Fort Knox where all the gold is kept.
Yeah.
And they try to nuke it. So it's all radioactive. And so Goldfinger's supply of gold then becomes considerably more valuable. Which is basically a similar thing, because they try to steal the really fancy beans and then they destroy the rest of the beans.
So that they are the sole provider of the coffee.
So those fancy beans are more expensive.
Yes.
Like, it's a similar... I wonder... I'd love to see if E.C. Myers...
well, E.C. Myers, let us know if you're watching the part 2 movie.
I want to know if that's where he got the
giant video. Okay, so now let us move on. So now we're on chapter 17, okay, which I accidentally called 16. Now, for the heist.
That won't get confusing.
Research scheming. So basically, they have this whole, like, research thing where they have to research the coffee and the blueprints, and, like, it's pretty cool when you read it. It's just kind of boring to explain,
I was concerned because I really love heists.
Yeah.
As just plot points.
Sure.
Or just plots in general, as a genre. So I was like, oh god, please be good. And the second they were like, we're gonna steal coffee, I was like, oh,
Magic beans. Right?
Magic beans coffee. Yes, I did write that down. It was like the Starbucks of Vale.
So what's funny is that she basically, like, stays in the coffee franchise to, like, stake it out. Like, she basically pretends that she's doing her homework, you know? And then she transforms into a black hair barista. And so I was like, I wonder if that's supposed to be her black hair design. It's supposed to be, like, her
the
disguise.
Black hair, green-eyed one.
Yeah, exactly. Because she does that. Doesn't she also do that in the Schnee Manor? She has a black hair character.
She has that. She does that in volume 3 when she's fighting.
Yeah, and the volume 3 one when she's, like, pretending to be the nurse. So that's, like, her default. Because you could say that that's completely unlike her triad, so it's a disguise, if that makes sense, right? So that I kind of find interesting. So she waits for the delivery guy.
It's like Clark Kent with his glasses.
Oh my
the second
God.
Neo has black hair, it's like, Perry? Like, oh no, that's just a regular platypus.
Anyway, so she waits for the delivery guy, she locks him up in the back, right? And she does that, not because it's the heist yet, just to get the delivery route map, right? So it's kind of like a fake out thing. So she just gets some maps, not even to steal the coffee. So they're memorizing maps. They're studying aerial photos. Like, it's like serious, like this heist, right?
Copy heist.
he broke a hole into the warehouse, right? So they get the blueprints, they find the warehouse, they break a hole. He thought it was the center, but he doesn't know how to use orientation lock on his scroll, and so he blows a hole in the wrong section. He flips the map the wrong way. That's such a boomer thing. I love that, right? And so I said, oh, he flipped the map wrong, or is Neo setting him up? Like, I was like, oh,
you were paranoid.
No,
but no.
no. He's
Roman's
just
a dipshit sometimes.
And so I said, not Rock Salt as the security guard because they revoked his license. That's so funny. It's like that meme, not meme, but like that idea, oh, like security guards become cops, or security guards are retired cops or something. Anyway, I thought that was funny.
Rent-a-cops. What I found really funny about that is that at first I wanted like, ooh, this is going to be a really serious heist. And then I'm like, coffee? What the fuck is this? And then I'm like, oh no, this is actually quite funny.
Rock Salt.
He goofs it up and then Rock Salt comes in and then Neo like slams
But he's like bleeding at one point, so it is kind of serious, right?
I guess so.
So Neo stole the truck, gagged the driver, and like put him to sleep. She basically rams the car into Roach. Like she basically drives into him. So again, kind of like little morally ambiguous Neo. She's like, oh, I'll hit this person. He's attacking Roman, so I'll hit him with my car, you know? Roman is bleeding, but he's fine, obviously. I wrote down obviously just because, you know. But yeah, I thought that it was kind of scary there for a minute, though. Like, Roman was, like, bleeding out of his ribs or something, you know? But obviously we know he's alive because he's in the show, right? Right. So that's always kind of funny when you're watching something that's a prequel and you're like, well, there are no stakes because this character can't die, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there were stakes. I did feel like suspense, but it was like, you know, when we made our death video a couple of weeks ago, people were saying, oh, you know, I can't wait till volume 9. I need to know if Yang's dead or not. And I'm like, clearly she's not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. I feel you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be mean. You know what I mean? Or anything. I don't mean to be disrespectful or something, but like, people are genuinely were replying to my comments like, oh yeah, like I cried when Yang fell because I thought she was dead, and I'm like, y'all thought she was dead.
Well, I thought I mean, not all of us were kin to your idea that
I know. And so I don't
not everyone's as brilliant as you.
I know. I don't mean to be mean to people, but there are people that still think that she could be dead. Like going into volume 9, and I'm like, guys, literally all the main characters dropped into the void. They're not dead. Unless Yang fell and dropped on a rock or something on the island, but they're not dead from just falling in the hole, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Because somebody was like, yeah, when Weiss fell, like that's when I kind of knew that there was no way that they could all be dead. But yeah, that's just what this reminds me of. It's like I was smiling during the Yang scene because I was like, well, she's not dead. She's in Wonderland. Hee hee. I was like enjoying myself a little bit too much. Yeah, so after their heist, because I guess they did it successfully, right? You know, they grabbed the truck and destroyed the warehouse and, you know, good job.
It was a really fun scene.
Yes.
It was very chaotic and slapjack and humorous, and I think a good version of what a heist should be in this book.
Exactly. It was really, really fun. And so that's why, again, like, this is a discussion. You have to go read this for yourself, or else you're just like, oh, they did the thing, and they did the thing, and they did, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, you have to read it. That's why we're doing a discussion, right? And then Roman buys them the ice cream, which I thought was really cute. Roman is happy, celebrating with Neo, right? And so I thought that was nice because, like, remember Roman's Roman was saying, oh yeah, these moments are supposed to be celebrated with someone. Now he has someone to celebrate with, right?
That's not Chameleon.
Neo was in it for the mayhem, not the money.
Murdering Rusty.
Right? Long ago, I never wanted a sidekick until I met you. But Neo kicks him for that because she's like, oh, I'm not a sidekick. I'm not your sidekick, okay? I'm a partner. He changes it to partners in crime. She helps him up, and they take each other's hand, and it was very
respect. That's what we love to see.
Because at first I was like, whoa, Neo, why did you kick him? What is happening? Is she turning him in? And then it's just kind of like, no, it's because she just wants to be called partner, not sidekick. And I thought that was nice. Anyway, so anything else about that, Hunter?
It's a romance for the ages. I just love how that, at first, you know, I was never big on, I loved Neo as a character, and I liked Roman, but I was never big on them as, like,
I had,
duo.
a horny for Roman phase. I don't know if you remember
I've seen that Blake X Roman fanfiction you read. I'm aware you did, but I didn't have a thing for, like, the two of them together as like a
Right.
couple as something that I thought was interesting. Because I feel like they had good moments in the show, but not like a ton of moments.
Sure, yeah.
The book, they have a ton of really great moments, and it almost makes me wish that their dynamic was more teasing and kind of fun in the show. But then again, it was also, they had like limited space to do that.
Like we said, I think that the only reason for that is because we never see them alone. Right? Like I had sort of said before, it's like, how can you have that when you're putting on airs in front of the enemy or in front of Cinder or what have you? And so I feel like there's a high possibility that these books may be animated one day. Like, obviously, you want the books to sell, and so you don't want to be like, and here's the animated show to go along with the book of the show that just can't, because why would people read the book? But I feel like in like 5 years...
Well, I saw a thing, and I wanted to talk to you about it, because it might be a cool short video, but someone's doing a fan-made illustrated version of the first
Oh, that's nice!
And I was thinking of, like, what if it would be cool if it was just, like... It's like
a comic.
The next DC comic is just Roman and Neo going on adventures. I think that would be really great.
Yeah.
Short
so now,
a fully animated thingamajig.
Let us get on to chapter 18. Okay. So, Neo feels like the school isn't giving her what she needs. What a mood. Lady B threatens to expel her if she doesn't catch Roman soon. Right? So that's great. She was going to break into the room that Lady Beat's stuff was in. She was going to break in there for some reason. Why was she going to break in?
She wanted to... I'm not sure.
She wanted to get something.
She wanted to go through her desk?
I guess. She wanted blackmail or something. Like, she wanted, I don't know. She wanted something.
I didn't have that written down.
Hold on. Let's go to chapter 18 and just, like, recheck this, because apparently I didn't write this down.
I wrote down Diet Dr. Pepper.
So, Neo was having second thoughts. As much as life at the school had improved, she felt like it wasn't giving her what she needed. She already surpassed everything the teachers could give her. What a big mood. Buying the time her real lessons could with Roman, couldn't she just quit and work with him? Unless she come back with the information he needed to get little Miss Malachite off his back, he'd never agree to that. So that's why she's going into the office, right? She's going in to get information to get little Miss Malachite off Roman's back, I guess. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I don't know why, but I think it's about, like, I think that she wanted to read the files on Meline and, like, militia or something. So I think that was the idea, is that she basically, like, wanted to go into the room to, like, look around. You know what I mean? To, like, look around and, like, figure out, like, oh, what can I use to give Roman so he can give it to Little Miss so Little Miss won't keep trying to kill him, basically. So I guess that was, like, kind of the idea, you know? And so anyway, so she does a little, like, face scan, which is cool. So she pretends to be Lady Beat, like, for the face identification, which I think
really
was pretty
clever.
cool.
I did like that clever.
So yes, then she basically finds a screen of, like, cameras, and she figures out that her pin is one of the cameras, because she's like, oh, that looks like it's in here. So she moves her hand to the pin and figures out that every pin that every student wore, that's why there was no need for security cameras. Each one of them had a body cam with the footage sent back to this room.
Which was, I knew, because I had a note earlier where, like, I don't trust this school, but I really didn't think, at this point, the book almost becomes, like, an espionage.
Yeah.
About, like, high society and, like, mass surveillance. And it was, like, really surprising. I didn't expect this turn from them.
A couple showed dinner plates in restaurants, on counters in a private kitchen. One showed a woman touching up her lipstick in the mirror, right? She spotted the
pin stays
brooch
on during sex.
On the blacktail coat dress. What had Roman said? Blah, 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 blah. So yeah, partners of important people, reporters, bankers. Lady Beat had an eye into some of the most sensitive secrets in the private lives in Vale, right? So that was, like, the whole thing, you know?
I like that, like, Neo almost becomes the Edward Snowden of RWBY. Just like, by the way, they're always watching you.
But then Neo realizes that she knows, like, Lady Beat knows, oh shit, she's been seeing all my interactions with Roman. She knows I don't want to catch him and turn him in. She knows I already found, right? And so then she panics and basically, like, sends Roman a text message, right? And so then she just destroys everything. At some point, like, she destroys a bunch of stuff. She takes, like, the hard drive
so
with the evidence,
proof
but she, like, destroys everything else, right? I'm sure Mother would have liked to meet her, Neo. So this is the Malachites talking to each other, that they would have liked to meet Neo, which is ironic because she does meet Neo one day, and I would love, that's why there needs to be a part 2 to this book, in a way, right? Because I want to see, because there's so many things, like, okay, for example, Junior and the Malachite twins, how did they work together? Like, we have a theory that they're actually related and that the parents got a divorce, but we talked about that last week.
Watch our first episode of our book club for that
there's
discussion.
also, how did Neo go to Miss Malachite? Did he ever get on good terms again with Miss Malachite? You know, like, there's that whole, like, thing. Like, there's just a whole thing about that, right? Yes. She must have a spider tattoo. So that was what I was saying. So I was saying that Lady Beat must have a spider tattoo somewhere. I don't know if that was like factual. Oh yes, you know why? It's because Lady Beat was in the office and the Malachite girls came to talk to her and realized that she didn't have her tattoo. And so she noticed that it was off. Right. I think that was oh dear. I think that was the implication.
My tiara!
My tiara, no. I think that was supposed to be the implication there. Right? I think that was like kind of the idea, if that makes sense, right? Was the fact that like, oh, they know that it's not Lady Beat because, right? Because anyway, they're just talking, right? Is Mother here? Did you get Torchwick? Is something burning? Right? We couldn't find Vanille. She must have stepped out. I'm sure Mother would like to meet her. And so stepped out, snuck out. Hold on, where's your tattoo? Melanie grabbed her by the back of her jacket and pulled down her collar, right? So she basically, like, that's how her spider tattoo's on the back of her neck. And Melanie notices that it's not there. I don't know what happened to my notes at this point. I was just like, Cal, you better remember this.
Makes you feel any better? I also forgot about that.
Anyway, so that was kind of fun. And so the twins basically catch Neo and they fight, which I think was cool, right? You should be on our side. Why side with somebody like Torchwick? Neo flashed her a rude hand gesture. I thought that was kind of funny. She just gave her, gave her the finger.
I like how people give the finger in Remnant. That's canon now.
Yeah. They asked why she would join a loser like him, jumps out of the window again, so again, very reminiscent of her jumping out of her house. And then she says she isn't gonna let Roman disappear like Neo did, which I thought was really sweet. But yeah, that was a very intense chapter. That's when a lot of balls dropped, obviously. I'm just gonna like skim for a minute and see if there was anything else I forgot.
Because there was a lot of like, oh my god, Neo's being pursued, and oh my god, this is like a conspiracy.
Yeah, basically, right?
It really did feel like a spy novel near the end.
Exactly, right? And so, yeah, so she basically lockpicks. Right, so what was burning? Oh yeah, so she tries to delete the files from the last few hours, copied the files for the same time period from last night, renamed them with today's date. Like, she's just doing a bunch of, like, computer stuff to stop it from, like, stopping from them realizing that she was ever in here. So she's trying to cover her tracks, basically. Like, she's trying to erase the camera data of today of her going into that room, but obviously, like, everyone knows that she goes in at this point, so it's not really all that important. So what was burning? What was she setting on fire?
It would have been the smoking computer that she destroyed, right?
Yeah, I guess. Oh, okay. So she yanks out a bunch of wires and the screen goes dark. And so basically, like, she's like, oh man, like, there's no online storage, right? They talk about, like, the cloud, right? Neo's computer skills clearly weren't up to the challenge, so she just broke everything. That's basically it. She took the evidence, but she broke everything else so it couldn't, like, continuously function again, was basically the idea here, right? And so then we get to chapter 19, right? And so this is again where the book starts to pick up a lot. There's obviously lots of oopsies, lots of stuff going on here.
The pace is really frenetic at
The pace is really good. Everything's really good. So yes, Roman prefers having no crew to worry about to give orders to. So this is, I guess he's just thinking like, I think that there was kind of a conversation of, oh, Roman, why don't you be like your own crime boss? And he's like, well, I don't like having like, lackeys to give orders to, right? And so that's kind of why he's saying things were more fun this way, just with Neo, because he wanted to be a big crime boss, but then he kind of realizes, like, no, actually, like, it's just good if it's just me. It's just me and Neo. It's more fun if it's just us two. they were doing the mischief, right? Heist like stealing Dr. Piper. So I guess this is just Roman like reminiscing. He's basically saying, you know, I never wanted a big gang, too many people to delegate. I just want to be here with Neo. That's nice. That's good enough for me. And so then we have Hai was in a bad spot because he didn't want to take credit for the weird crimes, but he didn't want to admit that there were others operating, right? So like Hai's just here like, well, I can't say that I stole the coffee because I don't want people to think I fucking did that. But at the same time, if I didn't do it, they'll know that somebody's on my turf, right? So Hai's like in a precarious position, and I thought that that was kind of funny because it's like they're doing weird shit just so Hai is in a bad place, because it's like, do I admit that I did the weird shit or do I just let it go? But if I let it go, then everyone knows that I'm not the only crime boss, and that like degrades my credibility and my turf and everything, right? Roman was wrong about Little Miss never leaving Mistral is what I wrote down. Right? And so it's kind of funny.
I love the entry when this is the scene when like she knocks on the door. She doesn't knock on the door. She's correct. She fucking shoots through the door and splinters it.
Well, I think she does knock because he's like, oh, very funny, Neo. Like, haha. He just lets her in. Yeah. And then the bullets come through, right? And so after you came up shooting up my door, the condo board is going to be really upset. So I like Roman's little dialogue
Condo
there.
Boards exist in Reddit.
Exactly. I kind of like that. Lady Beach is with her, right? So again, my theory that they were both connected somehow. Yay! Woohoo! Roman thinks that Neo betrayed him. Sad face. Honeywine did betray him, though. Like, for real. Using her voice to drug him, basically. And so then Roman gets snatched. And so Honeywine says, sorry, she gave me the deposit for the club. But she's not that sorry. She's like, oh, yeah, sorry, Roman. It'd be like that sometimes. You know, she has a very casual attitude about it. But yeah, again, this chapter was really good. I loved Roman's, like, witty dialogue. I love seeing... He was kind of wrong about Malachite, you know? I kind of like to see that. Obviously, but yeah, nothing much else to say here. He got snatched. He's upset because he thinks that Neo betrayed him. Very sad. But then we get into the next chapter. And so, again, this is where things, like, start to, like, whiz by, either because of, like, me, you know, because I got lazy.
Fairness, it was the same with me because I started taking less and less notes as the time went on as well.
Exactly. And so Neo wants to trade the hard drive for Roman, basically, right?
Yes.
Like, that's her mentality. But Neo thinks if she got captured, Roman would just forget about her and sell the drive to the highest bidder. Right? So there's like that kind of like, oh, but does Roman even care about me as much as I care about him?
Which of course he does. He loves you. Be together.
Thank you, Hunter. Okay. Neo tells the cops what happened to Roman, but they are the fake cops, which I thought was so funny. So.
Which I'm still is like, are they? I think they might just at this point. I think they might just be fake cops.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I'm like, oh, are they paid off? Are they seedy? No, they're just impersonating police officers.
This is when we find out that Hai is not Junior, and Junior is the son, right?
Yes.
Because Junior hits on Neo, and the officers are like, she's 19, or she's 18, bro, right? So again, she's 18 here.
Yeah.
So that's also kind of like when people were talking about the timeline. Anyway, so Junior
and it also
is
talks
Hai's
about like
son.
a couple months have gone by, so I'm thinking like late 18 is.
Yeah, we're like late 18 now. So again, I don't know. Anyway, I don't care anymore. I'm just saying. I think the guy behind the desk is Haizan, and then he says to go see Junior for the payment, like to pay like the guys that are in there, right? So actually, they may be real cops, Hunter, because they say go to Junior to get your pay. So it's almost like he's paying off real crooked cops.
Yeah, which is the impression I got, but they're just so ineffective that, I mean, so are regular cops.
I know,
so
right? And so I wrote down, is Junior the brother of the Malachites if they were married sometime, right? And so I was just like speculating, trying to figure out the family tree. So Hai works with or knows Jimmy, gave her books like for her birthday and stuff. She liked the story about the girl trapped in the tower by her evil father. Neo wishes that real life was like that. Little does she know, right? Because that actually happened to Salem. And so that's kind of interesting because they've never really touched on, like, I had this whole theory that Salem would be like, I lost someone too once, Neo. Someone I loved very dearly. Don't you ever wish you could bring that person back? Right? And then you know, like, I had this whole theory about how Salem would connect to Neo, and then, like, she just didn't bother. She didn't bother to try.
Neo's a free agent.
But now in this case, Neo empathizes with the girl trapped in the tower. So will that ever come back, right? Who knows? Stella is his associate is that his new wife. So again, that fits in with our theory that Hai and Malachite were married. They had Junior. Hai started cheating with Stella. They got a divorce. Somehow he escaped being killed by the spiders. He went to Vale. He got Vale in the divorce while she got Mistral. And then she was pregnant with the twins. And so there was like family drama. And Stella was like the affair mistress.
The twins look a lot more like Hai than they do.
Yeah.
Because like when you look at the mother, like very light hair.
Yeah.
Whereas the hen like a lot paler skin.
And
like,
so
dark
there
hair.
is kind of this implication, like why would the Malachites hang around Junior if Junior's the enemy?
I can't help but feel like this is a video in the making.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Remnant TMZ.
But you understand what I'm saying? Because in this book, Hai and Malachite are fighting.
Yes.
And I know Hai's dead, but either, like, one of two things happened. Roman just, like, gave up and let Malachite do her thing while he did his thing, and he works with Junior, though. He hires a bunch of Junior's guys, right, for a couple of things that he does, like, in the early volumes. And so I feel like that, like, there's just a lot to unpack there, because Malachite is still opposing Roman at the end of the book, you know what I mean? She kind of like lets off and just like lets him kind of go in a way, but like they're not like working together at the end, right? They're not like friendly with each other, right? Like she just kind of lets it go. But why would Melanie and Melita just let Roman come in and do whatever he wants if they were still out to kill him? Like something must have changed, and that's why I see a book 2. Like I see a book 2 about how did Junior start working with the Malachites? Why did Little Miss just decide to let Roman, you know, not die anymore?
If we end up being right about that, I think that's like that's a slam dunk for
I know, right? So Neo told Hai everything. Hai wishes he could have a daughter instead of Junior, right? And so then I wrote, but how do Junior and the twins end up working together? Maybe Hai doesn't know that the twins are his daughters. And so, yeah, so she kicks his ass. Neo kicks Hai's ass, right? Pretends to be him. Right, they only think she's trivia. They don't know she has any powers, right? And so that was kind of interesting too, is that he only knew her as trivia. He didn't really know the in-detail connection to her and Roman and everything like that, right? Roman's hat still has the tracking device, so basically Neo gets in on a plane pretending to be Hai, lets all the men fall out of the plane, and Stella, who is wearing the parachute,
you don't do
or
the
who's
scene.
not wearing the
scene
parachute.
is like my favorite Neo scene in the whole thing, because she's a psychopath.
Okay, well you do it justice then, Hunter.
Because she's like, they're in a transport, and there's all these like SWAT guys armed to the teeth in the back, and Neo's just like, no, this button like drops the kind of undercarriage, I guess.
Yeah, because they're on a plane.
Yes, the kind of Bombay doors at the bottom, the belly of the plane. He's like, okay, clicks it, and they all suck out.
Right.
Because it's like, and then Stella's like, oh my God, why did you do that? Oh, thank God that they were all wearing parachutes. And then when he doesn't say anything, Stella gets a little concerned, and so Neo becomes herself. And then Stella's like, oh my God, and Neo just throws her out. Yeah. And Neo briefly thinks to herself, I wonder if she was wearing a parachute. Oh well. And then like flies down to the caravan.
Well, I did write that down. I said Stella may be dead, but Neo doesn't care. She does not give a single shit. But
just like just the moment of like, I wonder if she had a parachute.
Oh, it's an amazing scene. It's a great scene.
I think it's my favorite Neo scene in the whole
I agree.
book.
Like, this scene was really interesting because it reveals first that Hai and the dad were working together, right? Like, oh, I know Jimmy. You're Jimmy's daughter. Ha ha ha. I brought you all those fairy tale books, right? Like, we have all of that. Then we have Hai kind of being like, well, I'm going to hold you for ransom because Jimmy owes me some money, right? We have that whole thing. And then she pretends to be Hai, kicks Hai's ass. Like, it just, the domino effect is very, very cool. In this scene, right? And so now we are moving again swiftly onwards to chapter 21. And so we have 6 more to go after this. So basically what happens next is that Neo basically gets on Roman's like convoy, like basically where they've kidnapped him.
Dives bombs. Because
remember, like Little Miss and Lady Beat have captured Roman and they're on their way to, I don't know. They're on their way to do something with him, I guess, right?
Presumably a hole dug in the ground in the forest.
Yeah, because they do talk about torturing him, so yeah.
Oh,
and so, she basically rams the plane into them, right?
Yeah,
and so then there's a fight scene that happens, right? Because, she's fighting people in the back to get Roman free. Roman's fighting. Lots of fighting here. I didn't make that many notes. But then they basically, they get Roman out and they basically, I guess, clear out the plane. I guess. Because she has to Google. Oh wait, no. I guess she just flew the regular plane. So she takes Roman back to plane 1, the one that she stole from Hay. And he's like, "How did you learn how to fly this?" And so she just Googled how to fly a bullhead or something. So I guess that's Hay's plane. And so I thought that she took the plane from Malachite and Lady Beat. I don't think she did. I think they're back on Hay's plane at this point, and they escape onto that plane. Roman figures out that Neo had said she turned him in and changed her mind, right? So Roman has eventually, right, come to the conclusion that Neo didn't betray him. It's like she was going to, but then she changed her mind, and that makes him feel, I don't want to say happy, but it makes him feel better, right? Neo, I forgive you. Actions speak louder than words. Neo rescued him, and that's basically like the most important thing in Roman's opinion. That was basically it. I had nothing else written down for the note about this chapter. Yeah, but it was
like a kind of sweet moment of like, you came back for me.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll just like skim the end very closely just to like, check and see if we got everything. But yeah, it's
I was really concerned. The thing I hate the most in books is when it's just like, you lied about me, you lied to me, and now I'm going to be angsty about it.
It's
and
like
we'll get mad, and we're going to get back together, but it's going to slow the book down. They don't do that at all. They're just like right away, like, oh, you came back for me, like it's no big deal, and I appreciate that.
Anyway, so they have a fight scene here. As Hunter was saying, it's nice they didn't do the whole like teenage angst. I am mad at you because you betrayed me off of a misunderstanding.
I hate it.
Right?
It slows it down. I'm so glad that they kept that pace.
And so yeah, then we have. I'm guessing you didn't actually turn me into Little Miss, right? Because obviously now it's like, well, you saved me, so I'm guessing you didn't actually turn me in. And so he's like, I get it, right? Like you changed your mind. Actions speak louder than words. Now what? You pitted Hay against Little Miss Malachite. They're both going to want this data and us. The police are working with Hay too, so how do we turn this into a winning scenario, right? So that's kind of interesting because I guess that means that Hay was working with the police, and those were real police. Yes. They were just dumb.
They were dumb and corrupt.
It, right? And so yeah, that was basically it. I thought that there was a cute little hair ruffle in here somewhere, but I do remember a couple.
I do remember Neo ruffling Roman's hair. I think at the very end of the book, they have a little cute, like, little quick moment.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, and so then they're like, how do we turn this data into a winning scenario? That's, like, the whole thing.
I also like that, I don't know, I like how, like, they don't lean heavily on romance. How they don't have that kind of very touchy-feely. But there is, like, a little,
there's
a smidgen, and I like the smidgen, but it's not a very touchy-feely relationship, and I think it works well for them.
I think that that's true. And so now we have chapter 22. So again, like I said, now is the time where we're like just breezing. Breezing by, obviously. Okay, and so what happens in this chapter is Neo decides to bring Roman home to her parents. So we get like kind of a little bit of that.
That's an awkward first date.
I thought we were going to your house. Is it behind the mansion? You live there? Right? So I thought that was pretty funny.
Behind the mansion.
Right? The dad is basically like fucking pissed, because the dad's like, what do you think you're doing? You can't park that here. Like, not even surprised that there's an airship, just that you can't park it here. Right? Oh, man. You're afraid of talking to them after everything you've done in the last 6 months. After tonight, you jumped out of a plane. You've fought a group of spiders in a moving vehicle. You faced down Vale's toughest crime boss and stole his property. And so then Neo basically smiles and goes, no, like, you're the toughest. And he's like, right, I'm the toughest crime boss, but still, right? And so, like, he's like, why are you still afraid of your parents, right? And so, yeah, Neo actually starts to cry a little bit, and she hugs Roman. Like, she starts to blink back tears, they say, and it's like, hey, like, don't cry, like, it's okay, like, we'll face your parents together. Like, it was a very nice, like, endearing scene right there. And so the dad's like, I'm calling the cops, right? Like, he's just like, you know what I mean? Oh, you're Roman torturing trivia. What are you doing with Roman torturing? And this is actually nice because Roman corrects the parents when they call trivia instead of Neo, which again kind of feels
very trans.
Do you know what she wants to say? I do actually. I'm surprised you don't. I really liked like that piece of dialogue.
They understand each other.
But meanwhile, the mom's like, oh, your friends are always welcome, trivia. Right? But obviously she's bullshitting because she wants to invite them in to drug them. So again, it's kind of like, that ladylike thing of like, oh, we have company, Jimmy. We must treat the company with respect. But she's doing it. She's not genuine in that.
Yeah.
Like, your friends are always welcome. She's putting on airs again in order to trick them and do the criminal things, right? And so I really liked how she corrects them in everything like that. The sudden warmth is weird. The mom must know something. So that's what I said. I was like, oh, the mom's being like, oh, your friends are welcome here? No. So that was my whole thing, was like, no, the sudden warmth from the mom is suspicious. She's definitely up to something. That was my idea, right? And basically they're like, so you're rich, Neo, right? Because Roman didn't know that before. So it's like, so you're rich. It do be like that sometimes. Why did you walk away from all this, right? You could have mentioned that at least maybe before you went out to steal something, you probably could have put on Daddy's credit card, right? And so
he almost sounds a little jaded.
He is,
yeah,
right? Because Roman has this attitude of only poor people become hardened criminals, right? He's kind of, I don't want to say judgmental, but obviously he's sort of annoyed, right? You know what I mean? Like, he's sort of like, I don't know how to explain it, but he's like, oh, like, you're another one of those rich people. Like, he does get a little judgmental before, like, recoiling back, you know what I mean? And the giant portrait is freaking me out, right? And so that was kind of interesting, right? Because he notices that there's something off about the portrait, and that, like, they put a contact in. And so she actually she illusions the pink eye onto the portrait, which I thought was really funny, and a nice little act of rebellion right there, right? The mom seems nervous. This isn't the first criminal the mom's entertained, right? Because obviously now we know that Jimmy, has had criminals around, right? The tea was bitter, and so I was like, Neo, that means drugged.
That's what I was really, the second that happened, I'm like, that was really good, like, planting and payoff with the drugging.
Yeah.
Hoisted by her own petard, Neo was.
And so she felt almost, I guess, disassociating in this scene.
Yeah.
Like, she says something like, the two worlds are pulling together and I don't like how they are. Right? That could also be an effect of the drugs. Like, she felt like something was wrong. You know what I mean? And so she knows that there was something wrong, we can't harbor criminals here, the dad says, right? And then Neo points at him and laughs. That was pretty funny as well. But Roman basically calls Jimmy out, that Jimmy is a criminal, right? You're with the High family, eh? Right? And so, I manage business. We do business. And then Roman's like, city employees don't live this good, which is why they all work with crime syndicates. So that was funny, because the dad's like, oh, how dare you? Ha ha ha. I will not be lectured by you, right? Like, you know what I mean? But he, like, drags him for filth, and it's pretty funny. But then they get drugged, and so that's not good, because, like, Neo basically knows something's wrong and is like, let's go, let's get out of here. But she can't. She basically feels numb and, like, falls on the floor. And this is where the book gets, like, genuinely kind of scary. Like, we kind of have a Tangled moment from the dad. Like, the dad's dragging her by the ankles up to her room, and it's kind of like, you will stay here in the tower, and then we will kill Flynn, and then we will move. Like, that's, like, the whole idea right there. But yeah, very unsettling chapter and very interesting. And so again, now we have chapter.
You're right, very big Mother Gothel vibe.
23, yeah, exactly.
Although I don't know if Jimmy is as much as a DILF as Gothel was a MILF.
Yeah. The mom knows everything. His wife used Jimmy to spy on Hay.
Which I really like, because it then changes her whole perspective of the kind of demure, submissive one. Because you were more
sympathetic towards Caramel, but we, like, now you know the truth, that she was using, how do you explain it? She was using her husband all along.
Yeah, it's like and that's kind of what Lady Beat wanted to be, like, be the real powerhouses, but be in the shadows.
And so she said, you think we don't know who you are, or we don't know what's going on in our daughter's life? So they have been monitoring her the entire time, because she has the medallion. Yeah. So she has known what Neo has been up to, right? Neo's mother graduated from Lady Browning's Preparatory Academy for Girls too. No wonder she had her daughter shipped off there, right? And so she seems a bit more involved in Lady Beat's plan than most former students, right? And so it seemed like the mom has known a lot more.
Well, because they seemed to have a relationship earlier where they were talking and they were close.
Yeah.
I really dug it.
And so I thought that was really interesting. And so basically they talk about that they were in deep with High and they wanted to break away from High, right? I tried to change his mind, but Jimmy never listens to me, right? I suppose I'm supposed to just look pretty and smile a lot, which is harder work than you think. But I was trained for that, Be seen but not heard, that's living the dream. It's better to watch and learn, to plot and scheme. Jimmy has no idea what's going on. He never did. I knew what trivia needed, but he wouldn't let me give it to her. He didn't want her to grow up like him. But that was going against her nature. So I really liked that dialogue here, actually, because I thought that was very telling. It's like, you know, she always kind of wanted Neo to go to combat school and to learn, but Jimmy was like, no, I don't want my daughter to do that. So it's almost like instead of sending her to Beacon, she covertly sent her to boarding school to give her some training.
Beacon.
No, like to give her some training and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I mean by diet Beacon.
Yeah. And so I think that that's kind of interesting too, because I'm sure they wouldn't want her at Beacon, because then she would be a huntress. But I think that this was kind of like the covert way, because the mom always saw Neo has potential to be like me. I want to create a mini-me of myself, but Jimmy would never let me. So the boarding school was a perfect cover story to finally get her what she needed. And so in that way, the mom almost gives Neo more of what she needed than the dad does. Like there's that sort of like a very interesting thing to say about that the mom looked out for Neo a little bit more.
They were more similar than they were different.
But it's ultimately to take advantage of whatever Neo would learn there. So that's where it's manipulative, I guess, right? So that's where the mom is not winning points, right? She was going to work with Beat and hand Roman over to the Malachites so the family could get high off the back, and Jimmy would get emergency power for the dust imports.
And he would be, because like there's that's why I think that they're going to do a second book, because they keep on talking about, oh, we want to control dust.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I almost wonder
how did Roman get into dust,
right?
if
that's setting up what happens next, like a big dust heist.
And what's good here is that Roman pretends to be paralyzed, right? And he basically starts to like choke her to death, which is kind of fucked up. He holds what? He grabbed her, taking her by surprise, holding her arms at her side with one arm covering her own nose and mouth. So he makes her choke herself, right? Because that's what he's saying, right? Like he makes her take her own hand and go like this and presses it up towards her, right? Thanks for the tea, but one of the first things I learned on the street is to be careful about what you eat. I didn't need to go to a fancy school for that one, right? So he basically chokes her to death and makes her like fall asleep, right? And so somebody says, darling, High is on the way here. I think that's Jimmy, because Jimmy's like, hey, we got the data drive. We can give him the data. Our debt's forgiven. And then Roman's like, I have better news than that, right? Because he basically like, you know, goes for the dad now. And so then he starts, I think he basically starts beating up the dad at this point, right? He checked the man's pockets and relieved him of a pistol and the data drive, right? So Jimmy went down. Jimmy spins around because he thinks that that he's talking to Caramel, but then he sees it's Roman, and Roman goes, whack! And then Jimmy falls onto the floor. And that is the end of chapter 23. So I really like the reveal of the mom. Yes. I liked kind of the nuance of the mom, too. Because she was kind of like, character. She was in a position where she was being controlled by Jimmy, in a way. Because Jimmy was preventing, like, you know, getting Neo what Neo needed, right? But also, she was also controlling in her own way as well. So it's almost like two controlling people came together.
But in different ways. Right? In more covert and covert and then overt ways.
It's like she controls Jimmy, but she also wanted to exert control on Neo. She's not the good parent, basically. No. They're both shitty, you know?
They're just doing it in different ways. But it's also weird that, like, well, I almost wonder what her backstory is, because if she wants Neo to become a version of her, like, is that what she's
Well, I think that's just, like, she went to the school, right? So it's probably a long line of, like, crime family stuff, right? And so then we will move on to chapter 24. Jimmy didn't want Neo to be changed by the crime world, right? He got wrapped up in bribes and stealing to pay High back. So that's kind of interesting because the mom is sympathetic in the sense that Jimmy was controlling, right? But then the mom's like also, you know, like an asshole. But Jimmy's almost empathetic in the sense that his reason for putting Neo in this gilded cage was so she wouldn't get caught up in the high society life and the same mistakes that he made, right? But they're still both terrible people.
It's almost like a Michael Corleone, the Godfather thing, where he doesn't want his children to follow in on him with his, you know, criminal
So that kind of makes things interesting, because the dad's preventing Neo to be a criminal, but the mom is sent her to the boarding school to be a criminal, basically, you know, but either one has no
real understanding of what she wants to be,
right? Or care for her own
unto herself,
for her own interests. And like on top of that, you could say that Jimmy is the trivia, whereas Caramel is the Neo. in a way, in a strange way, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Caramel's the wily one.
Yeah, basically. Whereas Jimmy, you know,
just wants to have power. And normal and non-criminal.
Yeah, and so that's interesting. So, he basically, like, locks her, I guess, in her room. Jimmy does. He's going to turn in Roman and, basically, to wipe their debts clean. Like, Jimmy says that, to Neo. And so then Roman rescues her, because obviously we know what happened to Jimmy, right? Her room has something explosive. Is that why they put a force field on her window when she doesn't live there anymore? Right? And so I guess what happened is after the house burned down, they realized, oh, that was a close call, bro. And so they put a force field on her window just in case. Like, I'm guessing the fire didn't spread enough to actually blow up the house. And so now when Neo moved out, they used her room to hold explosive. Or even the explosives were there all along. Because I think that Neo even says, oh, my dad had dust under my bed the entire time. They could have blown me up. So I guess what happened with the fire is the fire just didn't get to the dust. But then after the mansion fire happened, they were like, oh, shit.
But if the whole house went on fire, it would have exploded.
Or something like that. So it was basically like Neo realized that her father didn't really care about her all that much. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day...
You tend not to, store live munitions with the children you care about.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so, like, that's kind of, like, interesting in a way. And so Neo actually does say, is this what it's like to be dead? Because she can't move, but she's still, like, awake in a way. And so that's,
sleep paralysis.
Obviously, like, pretty creepy and everything, right? And so she basically says that... there's a force field on the window, which was strange because if she didn't live here, why go to the trouble of restoring her room? Why put a heavy-duty lock on the door and an expensive force field on the window, right? So she has no more belongings in here, but they've kept her room. You don't do that to keep someone in. Those were security measures to keep someone out. Right? And so then she's figuring out there must be something valuable in here. But then Roman basically goes and, like, saves her and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, like,
guess
she's
what,
like,
Neo?
oh,
you're
like,
right.
Did you kill Dad? And he's like, no, your dad's not dead. He becomes dead later.
He'll unalive himself later. What I thought was interesting, though, in here is that I believe this is a scene where Neo just allows words to appear, freeform floating in the air, which is a really interesting thing that she can do now.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they'll incorporate more of that in the show.
Like, instead of, like, text-to-speech? Where do you see that?
No, not the text-to-speech. She's, like, creates
No,
words
but I mean instead of text-to-speech.
I think it's in this scene where she talks to Roman.
Oh, maybe. I thought that was just sort of, like... that she was just making, like, gesturing, and then she was understood by Roman. You think that she basically made, like, little bubble letters.
I'm pretty sure she made letters.
I did not write that down, so I don't know.
Whoopsie daisies.
Anyway, I don't think that's correct, but maybe. And so, meanwhile, Roman's, like, 56 rooms in a house with 3 people. Like, he's just so mad. Oh, boy. Anyway, and so Roman has the hard drive. And so they basically, like, come up with a plan to go, like, talk to the news lady, to Lisa Lavender is, like, the whole idea, right? And so then she says, Neo caught her reflection in the mirror. Her father's face looked back at her. She wondered how he became the type of person to risk losing everything to get what he wanted. She wondered if she would make the same choice. She thought about how angry he had been when he set the fire, and so that's, like, the whole, like, blown up sort of thing. Like, that's when she starts to get to the dust. And I think that's interesting because I wonder if that, like, she catches her reflection and sees her father looking back at her, right? Because she's pretending to be her dad at this point because she's transforming to let the computer scan her face. And so I wonder if, like, that line, to risk everything, to risk losing everything and get what she wanted, is about, like, I guess her future, like, in the volumes later on about her risking her life to just kill Ruby and get what she wants. Like, I think that maybe you can make a comparison between the dad and then Neo's, like, current actions in a way, somehow.
Perhaps.
Right? But I don't know. And so anyway, there were burn dust in the room, right? If Hai ever found out I'd be stealing from him, he wouldn't be able to prove it if he couldn't find it. And no one would think to look in your room. Yeah, and so I'm smarter than your mom thinks. She underestimates me. Hai underestimates me, but I had everyone fooled. So this is Jimmy, because Jimmy's not dead, right?
I like how Jimmy's just, like, wants to, like, assert himself and be in control, but he very clearly is sort of weak as a person, and he's failing to do that. I liked how they delivered on that kind of characterization.
Yeah, and so I thought that was, like, pretty fascinating, that they were like, oh, like the mom makes makes me feel inferior, like, because that was, you know, that was kind of the whole thing with the mom. And so that was the whole idea. No one would ever think to look in your room, but you literally had explosives in your daughter's room the whole time, right? You messed it all up. First you started the fire right on top of all the dust, right? And so that was like the whole thing, right? And so, you know, she'd been sitting on top of a massive bomb that would have levered the whole neighborhood, right? She would have never known what hit her if everything blew up. And that sets that up for later because the dust does blow up. And then the dad died. So that's supposed to basically tell you if the dust blew up, whoever was around would die. So Jimmy, you know, he's dying. That's basically the whole thing. What I thought was kind of interesting, right, is that Roman goes to do some computer stuff. But the dad seems like crazy. That's what I wrote. Dad seems crazy on 291. Like, he seems not paranoid, but he's just like lost it.
But he's definitely pushed to the edge there.
Yeah,
he's kind of ranting and raving.
You know, you're a witch, just like one of those in the silly stories you read. Because it was like, how did you know about the dust? You're a witch. Like, he just goes like he's just nutty at this point. And so she locks him in, basically. She locks him in the room. And so, but Papa was the only one who could let himself out. I really like that last line of dialogue, just because it kind of gives you that, like, you know, you made the bed that you lie in sort of vibes. And so I thought that was really, really nice. But yeah, we basically have Roman doing crime things, and then we have, or I guess, reporter things. He's trying to get in touch with Lisa Lavender, and then we have Neo kind of having some closure with her dad.
Which I found really interesting about, there was a really funny beat with Lisa Lavender where she's like...
I mean, that's this chapter.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
we will get to there. Roman calls Lisa Lavender. Roman did send her flowers, and so I thought that was so funny, because she's like, and thank you for the flowers, by the way.
She was like flirting with him too.
Kind of, like a little bit, right? Roman gives her the scoop. Neo pretends to be Roman to lead everyone to the dust room and basically, like, you know, to distract them, blow them all up. Neo transforms them into her parents, which I thought was kind of funny. And then they run away. You missed
what was really good about the Lisa Lavender.
I'm looking. I'm gonna go look for it now.
The scene was that, like, they were like, yeah, by the way, Miss Beat's school with their little pendants, like, they are basically surveillance devices, and Lisa Lavender's like, really? Hold on. And then you just hear crunch. Oh, no kidding. Okay,
yeah.
So...
I mean, this is funny, too, because he called Vale News Network, and he's like, well, no one, like, can just, like, you know, like, call Lisa Lavender.
Night.
It's the middle of the night. Something new is always happening. That's why it's news, right? Like, you know, oh, it's the Roman Torchwick? Okay, you know, like, whatever, right? So he's just trying to get on the phone. And it's like, it's the middle of the night. Well, news happens all the time, okay? This is Lisa Lavender, right? So she actually does get on the phone, right? And so Neo is texting him at this point. You know what I mean? Like, Neo is texting him about, oh, there's also dust in my room. Keep up, Roman. You know? And so, do you usually roast your informants like this, right? What have you got? I'm a big fan of ratings, right? And so, you know what I mean? Like, she says, oh, what do you got for me? I'm a big fan of the ratings, not you, Roman. So that was pretty funny. And so anyway... Yeah, so he basically says exactly what you had said, Hunter. Sorry, do you have proof? And so, yeah, she basically stays silent, like, for a long time.
And cracks her as you hear a fizzle,
Does she crack?
I think she cracks her.
She doesn't say that yet.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, she stays quiet for a long time.
I guess that's what
Oh, sorry, I just had to throw something out. So I think that she does. I think that's what happened, right? And so I think she probably did crack it open, realized he was telling the truth, and was like, shit, right? And so I think that was definitely very, very funny. And so she's like, and Roman, I love the flowers. That was like such a nice scene. I think that was so great. But yeah, you're right. I think that she, basically the long pause was her checking the pin and being like, shit, Roman's right. But still, I need some more evidence for TV, right? That was the whole idea. Yeah, and so then they basically, like, get back together. Hyde's like, oh my god, it's Torchwick! And then she basically pretends or masks them as, like, both of the parents, right? And so there's just a lot in this scene. There's gunshots, Hyde's in the house, pointing his gun at Roman.
There's also another bullhead, and they're pointing a bunch of guns from the bullhead at the house.
And so basically, they're fighting Hyde, but they lead Hyde to the room with the dust. in order to, like, you know what I mean, to get him blown up, and he'll be distracted because he'll be happier when he finds both Jimmy to beat Jimmy up and the dust. So that's kind of the implication. So I thought that was fun. And so basically, like, one of them pretends to be Caramel, the other one pretends to be Dad, so they can, like, get away, and, like, that's the whole thing. So there was kind of like a chase scene, like, you know, little Miss is out here, like, all these people are out here, High's in the house, and then they basically kind of drag High, or, like, convince High to go upstairs. They jump out a window, like, type of thing. They pretend to be the parents so they can get out, right? Little Miss is watching them closely, apparently, in this scene, right? And so it's like, you know, wait, this may not, like, work. This may not convince them, even if we look like the parents, right? For a moment, he wondered if she was going to turn him in and try to strike a deal with herself. So again, that's talking about Neo. So he's still a little unsure about Neo, right? Like, he's still a little bit of, like, unsure. And so she basically pointed at the house. So Neo was trying to get, like, Miss Malachite distracted because Miss Malachite's outside. And so it's like, point at the house and then, like, distract them, right?
And I believe
she had taken the bait, but what was the bait? And so then, let me read this.
This is all from Roman's perspective, too, yes, where you get this good, like...
The spotlight illuminated on the upper corner of the house. 2 figures were visible in the 3rd floor window. The backs were turned, but they were clearly him and Neo. So this was a fake him and Neo inside of the house. So basically, right, she is pretending that her and Roman are Caramel. She points to Miss Malachite saying, hey, Roman's up there, and there's a fake Neo and Roman up in the house.
Because Miss Malachite does not care about...
Yeah, for Miss Malachite to basically run after, right? And because at first, it's like, oh, you know, like, we don't know, like, is Miss Malachite just gonna let Caramel and Jimmy go? But then Neo makes a fake Neo and Roman, and Miss Malachite basically runs, you know,
she runs,
kind of. Not runs, but she gets distracted.
She's distracted,
right? She's like, you know, she takes the bait so they can escape, right?
Because I think she's still in the airplane, correct?
Yeah, she's like she's not close because she doesn't blow up.
Yes.
Because Little Miss begins attacking the window, trying to kill the illusion, right? But I'm just saying, like, not that she runs, but they go. She goes to the house.
Distracted.
Right? Exactly, she's distracted, right? And so then the thing blows up.
The gunfire eventually hits the burn dust, and it just goes up, and it entirely levels the house.
Yep, and so, like, Neo's like, we gotta fucking go, because this house is gonna blow up, right? Like, we gotta go, buckle your seatbelt, okay? We gotta go. Neo's buckling her seatbelt. Roman's, like finicking with it, and he's like, you know, like, and then he got it, right? Like, then he understands, and then there was a flash of light, everything blows up, the force hit Roman and Neo, it pushed their vehicle into the air, they turned, they're not in an airplane anymore, they're in a car. So the car, like, flipped on it, right? They're on the other end of the driveway. Like, it's just like mayhem at this point. It's just crazy. And so, yeah, I really like that scene because you have so much mayhem, right? You have High in the house. They're trying to lead High away. They're trying to distract Miss Malachite because Miss Malachite's outside. High is here. It was so good.
I feel like a sort of 3-ring circus.
Oh,
There's a lot of confusion and chaos.
And now we're on the last chapter, everyone. Can you guys believe that after all this? After all this, we're on the very last chapter. So yeah, that was a great chapter. I think it just hit everything on point. Yes. Like, the fight scene was so well written, because that's something, not that bugs me, but that's something very difficult. To write a fight scene in a book. And I know that sounds silly because it's like, oh, well, George R.R. Martin does this, or like Tolkien does that, or such and such do this.
There's ways to do it well, but it's better. You can't have one that's long and drawn out. I find you need something quick and punchy.
It's hard because you also have to visualize, right? But I feel like E.C. Myers, he knows how to write a fight scene and make it seem real in that way. You know what I mean? And so
short and punchy.
Exactly. So I just find that, like, very interesting, like, how they can take something which is supposed to be, again, like a fight scene where there's fighting, but somehow translate that combat to, like, a book. You know, I just always find that so fascinating. So I think they did a good job with the mayhem and the suspense and, like, oh, this person's inside, but this person's outside. How do we distract? You know, and it's just so smart and stuff. Like, it's just so great. And so now it's chapter 26, right? There's explosions. So High's dead, and the parents are dead.
High is dead. High's like vapor now.
Yeah, High is vapor. Jimmy is vapor. The mom is probably also vapor because she was, you know, she was in the house and she was knocked out, right? And so apparently Miss Malachite's okay because she was in the airship. So I guess they realized, oh shit, we're blowing up, and they flew away, right? And so they're like, you know, Neo killed him. So at first Neo was like, yeah, I killed him, but then he's like, well, his own Greed killed him, so, you know. She thinks Trivia is buried under that rubble too, right? So that's interesting in a way, is that she kind of sees it as like that Trivia, not like Trivia is in her Trivia died in there, but the fake Trivia, like the one in the portrait died in that house, which I thought was like very interesting. I'll see the exact wording of it because obviously I said what I liked about the book was they didn't take Trivia and throw her in the trash. That kind of makes it sound like they did, but they didn't. I just need to find the exact wording for it, right? And so, your parents, right? Like, no, right? Like, she shook her head. She's like, no, my parents definitely got in there. He got killed by the only thing he truly cared about, his ambitions, and by his daughter. And I was like, but to be fair, you know, Little Miss may have been the one to pull the trigger, but Neo had pointed her guns on her father, and then the mom also had died, right? And so I guess what happened is they put the illusions in Neo's room, and so Little Miss Malachite shoots, but then that's the room that has the death, right? Like it all comes together like that. As far as she was concerned, Trivia Vanille was buried under that mess too. Neapolitan was the sole survivor, right? And so that's the idea. It's not that Trivia is buried. It's like, think of Neapolitan's name. You have Neo, you have like, you know, the Vanille, I guess, and then you also have like the aspects of Trivia. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain.
I'm not sure if I get it either. Yeah. That's also when she gets to White Streak.
But think about Vanille, right? Because, okay, so to spell vanilla, you need the T, like you need the A-N, right? That's at the end of politan. You know what I mean? And so, and then with Trivia, like, anyway, it's hard to see.
Ill and vanilla.
Yeah, like ill and vanilla, and then the tan and the Trivia. Like, there's just,
that's
if you look at the name, all of the letters are in there is basically, I'm not saying that it's like, oh, it was intentional. I'm just saying, like, Neapolitan as the word means the triad, right? Like means all three. And there's probably also Neapolitan's not an English word, right? So this may make more sense, like literally like the combination of this may have like the Italian word for strawberry in there.
White, so I imagine that White Streak as being a kind of blending of the two identities into this like new thing.
Yeah, but she already
longer...
called herself Neapolitan before, so I see it a bit differently.
But she also, but it's also like Trivia is no longer there.
But do you guys understand what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Trivia, Vanille is buried under the house.
Well, because otherwise I'm not entirely sure what that white thing means.
I'll tell you, but Neapolitan survives. And so it's not we're taking Trivia and throwing her in the trash, it's that Trivia is now integrated into Neapolitan as an identity, right? And so that's sort of how I see it. It's like, you know, the parents' Trivia died
Maybe
in the
it could
house.
be her past life as Trivia.
Yeah, and so
at the end of the day, there's
in terms of that line about like the Trivia was buried under that mess, it's like the Trivia that her parents presented is buried under the house, whereas Neapolitan now has like the triad and like all three. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so Roman says he lost his parents when he was younger and he turned out okay. So that's interesting because he says he lost his parents, but the mom dropped him off at the orphanage and we never heard about the dad.
I guess that's a way of losing your parents.
So Neil looked at him and cracked a smile. He caught a lock of hair and showed it to her. It was white. This is new. It suits you. Why would she have done that with her semblance? Question mark, right? And so she doesn't even know why in that moment. Why create the white streak?
Well, was it like Roman perspective and it's Roman not understanding?
No. This is her perspective because she says mama, right?
Oh, I guess so.
Yeah, so this is the Neo chapter, right? And so I think, and Neo's picture is on it, right? And so I think what the white streak is supposed to represent is, again, we've gotten the brown hair was Trivia, the strawberry was Neo, and the white part is Vanille, like the family name and like stuff like that. So my interpretation was that she basically didn't necessarily discard the family name entirely, but she's the sole survivor of the family, so she can be like she can be the Vanille how she wants to. I think that the white is supposed to be
I think it's
that.
like you are now in control of yourself. You're no longer under the thumb of your family.
But I think it's supposed to represent her family history and her family name, because it's a very small part of her identity.
Of her taking the family for her own.
Yeah, basically. Because remember, like in terms of her hair, it's a very small part. Like it's only a couple streaks, right? So it's like her family didn't entirely make her who she is, but there's a little part that like has to do with her family. And you could also say it's because she killed her parents. Like that white part is sort of also like that, because that's the only time when that had happened. Or the stress of
narrowly surviving an explosion.
But yeah, I think that it's just supposed to be like, that is a key to her life, because in this picture she doesn't have the white streak on the cover of the book. She has white glare, but she doesn't actually have the streak.
Yeah, but in a lot of the art, a lot of the new, I don't even think she has the white streak in the new model.
No, she does in the model.
Does she in the
Yeah.
model? Okay.
I need to get my phone, but I'm like 100% sure that she does have it. But like, I don't know. It's up to interpretation, right? You can think the white streak is her killing her parents and like that being like a part of her identity now, right? Like in a way that she is a murderer, she has crossed the threshold, she has done too much.
Maybe.
In a way, I kind of see it as that she has reclaimed the family name now because both of her parents are dead, right? And that little part of her being a vanille and like what happened here will always stay with her. So it's part of her like history.
I guess I view it as her being kind of who, like, because before it was her family who decides that. I guess I view that as her being in control of herself now.
Yeah, exactly, right? And
because she wears that hat all the time, I can't ever see the... You need to watch that one episode.
Well, isn't that kind of interesting that she covers the white streak with the hat in a way?
Because maybe her new family was Roman?
Yeah, and so obviously she had it. She had it here. You can actually see a little bit of it there.
Oh yeah, you
right?
can.
So
yeah, you can.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. In the recent volumes, it's kind of hard to tell.
Less prominent.
So maybe that's also what it is now. Her parents are dead, so she's found a new family with Roman. Because the end of this chapter is basically them saying to stick together. I think it was to represent the kill, like that, the feeling that she killed her dad and everything, right? Like that's sort of what I wrote about it. Like I thought it was supposed to represent like the kill being like the final streak, or even just that now that her parents are dead, the past is in the past, right? So that white streak represents the past and what brought her here, but that's a very small part of her entire identity. Yeah, like the past. I guess you know,
I like that.
The primary part is the brown hair and the pink hair, right?
I guess I kind of like that as I like the general idea of that.
Yeah, and so then they basically say, hey, you can drop me off wherever. Like Roman's like, hey, you can drop me off.
I think we're, if you don't want me anymore, but Neo's like, no, you're my dum-dum.
Yeah, and so unless you want to stick together, she shot him an anxious look. So she's almost anxious for Roman to leave. I think that is kind of what it is too. Like Roman's now her only family type of thing. She gave him a look that expressed how incredibly clueless she thought he was. Oh, can't imagine you want to hang out with someone like me. With your abilities, you could be a huntress. And then Neo bursts out laughing. And she turns into Glinda, which I think is so funny. Yeah, we can never escape Glinda Goodwitch either in these books. They also wrote
down that Glinda is described as Vale's most famous huntress, which I think was an interesting bit of world building.
Yeah. I'm not interested in having a sidekick, but I couldn't ask for a better partner, and that was like very, very nice. And so then she actually kisses him, right?
Yeah, like a little smooch on the cheek.
Yeah, she gives him a little smooch. His face went red. It was fun to mess with him sometimes. And then she tousles his hair. He needed a new hat, right?
I like how jokey joke and how not sincere.
It's not like a romantic Disney kiss,
because it wouldn't work if it was Disney kiss.
But I like this though. Still.
That's better. That
I think
works
that this
so
is nice
well. Yeah.
shipping. I think that their romance is basically canon at this point.
More or less.
Right? Yeah. It's like a fling kind of romance. They're not we are married, right? They're not serious.
I mean, I don't know if I don't know if they'd ever get married or call themselves dating, but Roman definitely couldn't slink off with anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And Neo would have words about that.
Yeah.
So I think they basically have a kind of special relationship all of themselves. I want what these bitches got.
Yeah, and so Roman says, hey, your dad was onto something though about controlling all that dust. We should go do that. And now
cool.
And now Hai is also gone, so they're in the position to take over. She wanted to help Roman set the world on fire. No one was ever going to catch Roman and Neo, so that's a very
They did. Oh, well, Griffin did.
Well, no one is ever going to catch Bonnie and Clyde. Isn't that what they said?
Yeah, but they shot him dead.
Well,
they were Swiss
Roman
cheese
wasn't
afterwards.
caught though by the police.
Not by the police.
He was in jail for 5 minutes.
Briefly, but he got out. And then it got worse.
And so, that is basically the end, guys. That is the end of our video.
You know what?
Our notes.
When I had finished reading the book, I was
And so let's talk about general thoughts.
When I was finished reading the book, I was like, you know what? I don't know if this is my favorite, but I do think I quite liked it near the end.
Now that you've talked it out,
After I've talked about it, I think it was really great. I think it was pretty good.
Oh, sorry to mess with the camera here, guys. I was just gonna get the what do you call it? I was just gonna get the very last page just to make sure that we basically got everything right. And so, he says, where to, your choice, but she wants to help Roman set the world on fire, right? Feeling the warm sun on her face, the wind blowing through her hair. For once, she wasn't worried about anything.
They're robbing with each other.
Exactly. And so I thought that was nice. Oh, and Little Miss is retreating to Mistral, right? So that's the thing. Little Miss retreats. So how did the Malachites get with Junior? There's still room for a sequel here.
Yeah,
now,
I think there's a...
Can I say something I thought was odd is that E.C. Myers has no author biography at the back, right? Like usually you would have blank page and then you would have E.C. Myers.
I wonder if there was I wonder if there was a misprint.
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I don't remember if the other books had that, but isn't
they
that
should
strange?
have a little thing like, here's some blank pages to plan your own heist.
Well, yeah, I don't know. But isn't that strange? Because most books have, like, about the author.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There was no about the author, poor E.C. Myers. Right? So, yeah, I don't know if that was just a misprint or if all of the books were like that, because obviously...
I don't know. I should check my copy.
This is a different kind of book than normal. Do middle grade fiction have about the author at the end?
Normally.
I feel like they do. So, yeah, that was kind of strange.
You have a bit of that. We could always check.
Maybe I'll ask him, because I'm like, I was very surprised when I reached the end of the book and it was just the end. Because usually the book ends, and then maybe if you're lucky, you'll get a preview for book 2, depending on the author. But usually there's, I would like to thank such and such and such and such. Actually, the book's right there, Hunter. Do you want to grab?
Sure.
So you can also see now Hunter's wonderful outfit for today. The skirt and the fish tights. And so...
I dressed as an evil schoolgirl.
Exactly.
It's about an evil
And so let's just check this one, because I feel like that... No! We haven't about the author, sir!
I have a feeling
Y'all
that
did
might have been
E.C. Myers fucking dirty!
misprint.
There's nothing at the back! Can we grab Before the Dawn, too? Like, I'm just so curious. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just like...
Wait.
No? Then maybe they stopped. Maybe they were like, you already know about E.C. Myers. How much more do you have to know?
But there's no extra, like, superfluous blank pages.
Damn, E.C. Myers was like, "Now we gotta use those pages for the book."
They didn't want to like waste the ink.
I don't know. That's so strange.
Ink.
Exactly. That's so sad. Anyway, I know that's a weird way to end the video, but it was just something I was thinking. I mean, you could argue that the About E.C. Myers is in the first book, and so why would you put it in all the books after? But like other authors do that.
But
like, other authors always
also,
put it back.
It's entirely possible that someone could read that book and
not
the first
Roman
two.
Holiday either.
You don't need to read the first 2.
Yeah. So guys, what
the second 2 are kind of connected, but they were.
I also know there's like paper shortage right now or something. Like I don't know.
Maybe.
There's like I don't know what's going on.
But there wasn't when the last one came out.
I know. Kind of weird,
Actually, I don't know. Did the last one come out?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was.
Anyway, I'm gonna text E.C. Myers and be like, "Sir, you know that you have no author about page. That's kind of strange." You know what I mean? But anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed our little discussion and everything like that. Our little discussion about the book. We really enjoyed it. Again, the chemistry was on point. The scenes were suspenseful. There's a lot of videos to make.
If they do a sequel, I'm like, my goodness. It's gonna be so. I like
definitely see a sequel.
But the sequel, if they do it, I have such high expectations.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Like I think that a sequel is almost definite. I would argue that it's so likely because there's so many unanswered things. And then how did Roman get to do the stealing the dust thingy? And you could see like him meeting Cinder, and that's how it could kind of like end and everything, right? And so I think that there's like a lot of room. I feel like that's its own video, right? Like what's next? After this, like, you know, I feel like that's definitely possible. But yes, thank you for joining us today, everyone. We are going to do more videos. Like, we're going to do that theory. We're going to do, like, the full history of Neapolitan. Yay! Yes. I'm pretty sure, like, somebody like Eruption Fang or, like, Phoenix may do that, but, like, I still kind of want to, you know what I mean? I want to try to turn one out if I have time with school and everything, but that is basically it from us. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you for attending Calxyn's Royal Court today, and we will see you in the next one. Bye!